Welcome, welcome, welcome. What's going on, folks?
Welcome to your favorite gecko podcast on the internet.
Right.
What's up?
Welcome, Mr. Mark. He's been on the New Cow Corner already. Now he's on the Gecko Exchange, a podcast a day. And generally, I think with this episode, like I said, we're gonna be doing maintaining large collections, and it's mostly gonna be focused towards like Anthony and Mark because they got really big collections. Even though Ant be like, oh man, I got a big collection. Ant, you got a huge ass collection, dude. So like, no. So generally, mostly it's you guys with your large collections. Like me, I don't have, like I said, I don't have a large collection. I got a very small kind of, well, not even really precise, just a small collection. Like I like certain things, so I keep a small group of stuff. But before we kind of get into this stuff, Mark, how you doing? How's your season been? What's going on with you, bro?
What's up, fellas? Thank you for having me on. Season's been excellent for me. I'm very happy. Everything's been going pretty well. Everything's been going new things hatching, same things hatching, babies growing. Beautiful thing.
Yeah. What kind of new what's some new stuff that you started doing this year?
Some new stuff. Well, I got some pairings with some cresties that I did that the first time this year, which is very exciting. I hit Exanthics finally for the first time in 3 years. So that topped the whole season, to be honest with you. Then we got some ashy geckos that have been going off this season. Peacock day geckos. This was the first time this season that I hatched those. I got Pachydaktylus, not the rangy eye, Pachydaktylus fasciata.
Oh, okay.
I
The thick
hatched one of
toes.
the thick-toed. Yeah, I
Yeah.
hatched one of those this season finally for the first time, and some Stenodactylus have hatched also this year for the first
Nice.
time. So, yeah, exciting stuff. Exciting stuff.
Nice. Hey, what about you, Ant, man? What's going on? What's going on over there?
Completely honest, man, it's been going a lot slower than I had expected. You know,
Oh,
I mean, I got
what's
a lot
up?
of eggs, but I went a different route this year with incubating. And it's just taking a lot longer, a lot slower with babies. This time of year, I normally got a couple hundred hatchlings. I mean, I still got a few, close to 100, but I normally would have more. I got more eggs than I had boxes until about the other day. I had to go get some more egg boxes to incubate some eggs. Ironically, you ask, I usually do well, right? When it comes to animals dying or having birth defects, I never really had any issues. Yesterday, I had noticed one of these red geckos, one of my favorites, to be completely honest, is acting like super weird. Now, I don't know if it's a neurological issue. I had thought last night that maybe it was a shed issue. This little gecko can't stick to nothing, right? Like he does these little stutter steps and can't stick to nothing and kind of like falls, uses his tail a lot. I've been fixated on this for the last 2 days. When he
You
goes
think
to
it's just a
touch his
little
hand,
one-off?
starts shaking all weird, and I thought he was just getting ready to shed. I'm like, maybe he's going through a shed, so he can't stick, and his feet will be all weird. So I've had him sitting in a damp container for the last couple hours to see if anything will change, but I'm not so sure it's happening. And he's pretty big. The gecko's a couple months old. So it's not like it just. I'm baffled at what the hell's going on with this little dude, man.
Has it been happening since he first hatched out, or is it just recently
No,
happened?
not that I noticed. Not that I noticed. I was feeding them all crickets, and all the other ones are running around the tubs, running on the plastic, trying to crumb out of the plastic. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. He would run up and then he would kind of like back off. He would run up and he would back off. I'm like, just enough for me to notice, like, what the hell is going on with this dude? Why won't he walk on the plastic? So I still don't know. Like, damn, you can't see it. Like, see how his feet won't grip? His feet just
Yeah.
slide and he starts spazzing out.
Yeah, it's kind of like my Stropharis. Like I said, my Stropharis don't grip on the only thing they're really good gripping on is like glass. So have you
But he's
tried putting them in
perfectly
glass?
healthy.
Have you tried putting glass and seeing if you can walk on the glass?
I haven't, but like I said, he's not able to walk on a bunch of things that I know they can.
Yeah.
I mean, he's acting completely different than any one of the thousands of crested geckos I've hatched at this juncture, which sucks because, you know, I don't want to get controversial by any means, but people that know me know I'm from the survival of the fittest camp, right? If I got an animal that's not going to live, he's not going to thrive. I got other animals that will thrive off of those nutrients. I don't want to lose this dude, man. I really, really like this little gecko. You know, I'm looking at him like this might be my first handicap animal that I take care of. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
might have me a handicap pet because he's
Yeah.
just beautiful and he's healthy overall. Great structure, great color. Oh, my favorite phantom lily whites. Like and he's a sweetheart. Like I ain't got the heart in me to feed him to nothing. So I may have a handicap pet for the first time. It is what it is, man. I mean, I gotta hook him up, man. I gotta save my dude, man. You know,
Yeah.
no
So
head
go
tilt,
ahead and
no wobble, no.
yeah.
Did you
Talk
did you
about
check
the
the feet? I'm sorry. Did you check the feet for any extra shed?
Yeah, they look fine. I mean, there could be stuck shed on him if it's all of his feet, but like I said, that's why I put him in this little bare hospital tub with just a wet paper towel, damp paper towel to see if it would do anything. But when I take him out, it's more than that. Like he's flailing his arms around, like reaching for help, and they're like it's just different, Mark. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to explain it. Something's off.
yeah. So let's talk about that. So what are you doing differently for your incubation now? That's taking a little bit longer.
I run a lot cooler.
Okay.
I run them at they're fluctuating. I don't want to say a lot cooler because my high temps go just as high, but I I've been running them at varying temperatures as opposed to one set temperature. I used to run them in
Okay.
the incubator, and I had a greenhouse, like a little greenhouse in my room set up as a giant incubator. I ran heat mats on every table and kept it around like 76 degrees, 72 to 76 degrees. Now I've and for no real reason, I just kind of wanted to see what happens. I've all of my seasons so far I've changed pretty much incubation tactics, but this year more so I've incorporated a lot more dips. At nighttime, this room will get down to about 7 degrees, So I just leave them out. I don't even stress it. I let the eggs drop and rise in the day and cool at night. And what makes me get to all this is I was watching Thomas Marriott, one of the guests that we had on, and he had released a little clip, and he was back out in New Caledonia, which he's also going again. And he'll be a guest live from New Caledonia on New Cal Corner coming up in October, guys. Stay tuned. But he was saying that he did some studies and they were doing some research and made some observations that crested geckos, in theory, may not be laying their eggs in the ground like people think. They were finding eggs in the crotches of trees and in stag ferns in the trees. They were coming down into these crotches of trees that gather foliage that also starts to decompose, and in these ferns that collect leaves and things. And they were finding lots of eggs in these things up in the trees, but not in the ground. So I'm like, damn, if they're that high above the ground, they're absolutely fluctuating in temperature more than they are in the ground, which could potentially act more as a thermal mass, something that heats up during the day and maintains a steady temperature all night. If they were in the trees and had pretty much, the surrounding, the ambient temperature all the way around them, they would fluctuate much more. So I kind of just decided to leave them out in the environment and let them rise and drop all year. Now it's been a lot longer. They're hatching at about 100 days as opposed to 60, 70 days. So it's there's a drastic difference in hatch times. I don't notice any real size difference or any structural difference or anything like that, to be completely honest with you. I've done studies in the past, and I think the crested gecko structure is, at least in my experience, has been based off of genetics, right? If the parents have good genes, these things can hatch in 50 days and have amazing heads, and they can hatch in 100 days and not have a crest at all, So it's an ongoing, infinite experiment, if you will, but I have made some observations that would debunk a lot of the myths I've been told over the years. But that's really it. As far as, like I said, I have no real reason behind my madness other than what I watched and listened to Thomas talking about, and my theories, if you will, with temperature in general and ambient humidities. I also, I don't, I'm going off on a tangent. I also think that if these geckos, right, crested geckos lay year round. I got geckos that are laying in December and it's 65 degrees in this room. They're laying year round. In theory, if an animal's laying year round and they're laying eggs in New Caledonia in the wintertime and the temperatures are cooler, those eggs are going to naturally take longer to incubate than an egg by the same pair of animals that was laid in July. And if that's the case, then what sense would it make for nature to have animals? If an egg that incubated and hatched in a faster time was an inferior animal, what sense would it make for nature to do that? Like if every mammal, mammals, every mammal that was born in September is just weaker. It wouldn't make sense for nature, for longevity of a species and a population of a species. It wouldn't make sense, you know. So it's just, I just feel that it's one of those things that's just, an eternal mystery. But I don't think that eggs that incubate warmer and hatch faster are any less healthy than eggs that incubate cooler and longer. I have yet to find any significant proof of.
Yeah, I mean, I said I incubate my Chihuahua eggs. I incubate them with my Stropharis eggs at like
Yeah, they're
82
incubated.
degrees. Yeah,
Them,
and I mean,
I failed to mention that, but I do incubate my lychees, the chihuahuas, all those stay warm,
yeah,
But
I mean, I haven't seen any real. I've no, I've done the same test. No, or I at the end of the season, like whatever was the last one to hatch, I leave those out just to see what the difference is. Never see much of a difference. No, they hatch out about the same size as the ones I put in the incubator. They both have the same appetites. They grow pretty much the same because, like I said, I feed bug heavy anyway, so mine generally grow a lot more quicker than one that just does the diet and stuff like that. So I get that. That's all.
it wouldn't make sense, right, Jay? It doesn't make sense. Like even with the chihuahuas, if a chihuahua lays an egg in December, and let's say in theory that it's cooler in New Caledonia in December, if it lays an egg, why would nature allow it to even lay an egg if it wasn't gonna live or survive or thrive? When you look at North America in general, there's suspended animation, right? Turtles could lay their eggs in the fall to hatch in the spring, like some species of turtles, and they'll freeze solid. They'll freeze stone cold solid, and then unthaw, and literally the egg will hatch. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nature. These animals have adapted to these environments to survive. Nature is always in improving on methods in which species survive. It wouldn't make sense that an animal, again, from a climate that has varying temperatures, automatically doesn't make it if it's born at this time, at this temperature. It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah. What you think, Mark?
It makes sense. It makes sense. I've done many tests. Now I'm keeping everything in two separate incubators. I got one incubator in the garage for like the hotter animals and one incubator inside this room. But I've hatched. I like the fluctuation method myself. I like when the animals fluctuate because I don't have 110% proof. I've spoken to many different people, but I like the idea of incubating more naturally out of fluctuation where they come out of the egg more used to the fluctuation of the natural atmosphere instead of constant cold temperature. I just look at it like myself. We all go through the seasons. You like we were just talking about. You have Arizona super hot, and then all of a sudden it gets cold, even if it's for a month. You get used to that. You know what I'm saying? Instead of always being used to that one temperature, and then all of a sudden it does change, and now you don't know how to deal with it.
Oh,
So
I know
that's
how
how.
to deal with it. Shit, I enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so that's how I look at it. Like I like the fluctuation. At one point, I was fluctuating at higher temperatures, maybe like 74 to 78. And then now I fluctuated because with the incubator that I have fans in there and I have fans in this room so it stays cooler. We'll go down to like 68 in the nighttime and come up to no higher than 75, 74 at that. Like only if I open this back door does it get 75 in here, basically. So
So, all right. So, no, like I said, we're gonna be talking about collections and shit, right? So, Mark, pretty much, what inspires you to grow your collection the way it is right now? Like, cause you got a whole bunch of different shit. So,
yeah.
I have a
So
dope
what?
collection. One of my favorite collections of everybody I fuck with, for real.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just inspired by the geckos themselves. You know, if I had the money that I could build a warehouse, I'd probably have so many different gecko species. I'll have a desert room, a tropical room, a cold room. I'd have everything, just because I just find it amazing to watch these animals. I'm not able to go. If I was able to go to nature, even better, because I like that too. But since I can't do that, and I have to have a job and come home on a regular basis, I have a slice of different nature here at home that I get to experience. So I kind of tailor my collection, even though I wish I could go outside of the tailoring, but I kind of tailor it to what I can handle and what really fits pretty much easier for me without doing too much. But that's the inspiration for. I just love watching these animals in bioactive enclosures. You know, I use bins and things like that as well. Again, in the perfect world for me, I'd have a bioactive setup for every single species. Just because I like to sit there and take my coffee and just observe the animals. Like, I like to do that. I like to watch them. So
yeah, yeah,
it's not just about breeding them, and I like to observe them. I like to see plants grow. I like to trim a plant and replant it someplace else and watch it grow and thrive. And before you know it, wow, 20 tanks all have a plant from when I bought this one over here.
yeah, yeah.
I grow a baby to adult, and that adult has babies, and wow, look how big, look how beautiful. Like I like to do all of that. So that's my inspiration.
What was the first? Well, like I said, you are the gecko room. What was the first gecko to spark this interest?
That was
Question. I'm curious too.
the first geckos that ever sparked my interest was tokay geckos and golden geckos.
Nice,
Those
That's
nice.
wild. That's my first gecko and Jay's first gecko. My first gecko was Tokay as a kid. Jay's was a gold gecko. That's funny.
Yeah.
those were my two first geckos. It wasn't a leopard gecko. It was a tokay and a golden gecko. And I pretty much got them at the same time because the pet shop had both of them there. And what the most interesting thing about them was they were hanging upside down and on the glass, and I was like, wow, the colors of the golden geckos are beautiful. First of all, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, all yellow with the turquoise blue, and like they're beautiful. And tokay is just a regular original tokay gecko.
Still one of the most beautiful.
Yep.
It looks amazing, you know. So when you see those tokays, they bark. You see their black mouths. Golden geckos are like pretty much like day geckos. They're running around. Those were my first two. I've always dabbled in reptiles, so I had snakes. I've had a lot of different things. You know, I had a savanna monitor. I had a baby alligator at one point. Yeah, I've always dabbled in a lot of reptiles and fish. But as for geckos, those two were the ones that did it for me. Then after that was leopard geckos. You know, I had four leopard geckos long time ago. Then when I moved to Florida, I got leopard geckos for my son as a pet, But and then it was just more about being able to have a lot of different species in the confines of my home and able to have a few different instead of because I'm a monitor. Like I love to watch I would love to get a monitor, but in my eyes, the size enclosure I need for a monitor takes away 20 different species from gecko. So I don't get into that, you know. But geckos, you can have. I mean, from micro, I have Spherodactylus nicholaside. They're like this, and then you go all the way to a crimson red or a lychee. So it varies.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All kinds of different
You ever
sizes.
had
Go ahead.
you ever had Helmahera geckos, Mark?
They almost did, but no. I did a for a friend of mine. I set up a gecko room for them a couple years ago, and he had a Halimahera. So I spent maybe a month there with him on a day-to-day basis, setting up his room, caring for the animals, and that's where I first paired Chihuahuas together, and I was successful with them. And he had a Halimahara, but it was wild. Like the way you hold yours and stuff. The first time I tried to do that, this thing took me like a week to catch it because they're so fast. He was so fast and out of there. Um, that's the closest I've been to having one.
Very cool, cool animals.
They're cool. They're like a mix, right? They're like a mix
Well, that's what
of
made me
like a
think of it. When you said all these geckos, I'm like, Helma Harris is like pretty much smack dab in the middle of everything he's talking about. A day gecko meets golden tokay-ish,
yeah,
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Yeah, they're nice. That's a good species that should be more popular.
Yeah.
Just people don't work with them like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that need to be more popular, but
Yeah, for sure they are.
all right. So in between some of these regular questions, I'm gonna put in some of the questions that the people asked. So for 3G geckos, they asked if you could change something or things about what you did at the beginning of the journey in the hobby, what would it be?
If I could change a few things, I would have basically paid more attention to setting up the room better, investing more time and money into setting up the room instead of constant. It's kind of hard because I probably would constant evolve regardless of the fact, but I pretty much started out and I evolve as I go. And it's been a lot more work for me than me sitting down saying, well, you know what? I'm going to set up this whole room and this is what I'm going to do with this. So I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. Let's paint the walls this color. Let's put a new floor. Let's make sure we have these nice fans. For me, it's been, well, I like these fans. Let me try them and I'm going to add it as an addition. Those don't work. All right, well, let me get a different fan type of deal. I wish from the beginning, because my garage, I would have been able to paint the floor, design the whole wall, you know, and make it look real nice than just a garage. Like I could only do so much with it now. So it's difficult.
I mean, I think most people who are like that, like I said, we evolve as the things that we get, right? So it's like, okay, now I'm getting like later on, I think like next month, I'm getting Pachydaculus marcolepis, right? So now I gotta start evolving everything in here. It's like, all right, now I need to do this, I need to get that, I need to get heat tape, I need to get another thermostat, I need to get a new enclosure, I gotta do this instead of having this shit already laid out, having that plan, that diagram of all right, this is how everything's gonna be laid out. This is gonna be my desert rack. This is gonna be my arboreal arid rack. This is gonna be my tropical rack. This is gonna be my arboreal, things like that. People don't go through like a lot of that shit in their heads before they even think about getting the animals. They want to get the animals and be like, all right, now let me figure this shit out, right?
Exactly. That
What
that's
about
what
you, Ant?
normally happens.
Yeah. What about you, Ant?
I know it sounds ridiculous and it's probably a lame answer, but I wouldn't change anything. If I changed anything, it would compromise everything I've learned up until this point. So I'm glad it's the same as Mark. I'm always evolving. Everything's always changing. I think that everyone that has a collection of animals is always looking for a better way to be more efficient, to provide better care more efficiently. I don't know. I don't know because I don't think I'm done changing yet. I mean, I'm in the middle of rebuilding this whole room myself now, redoing everything. I'm sure it's not how it's going to end. I don't know. I don't know that I would change anything, man. To be completely honest, I think that everything I've done that's led to this point has taught me more. I may have went with a different species, but even at that, that really wasn't my choice. New Caledonian geckos and crested geckos are kind of thrust into my lap. I didn't really get to pick them. I probably would have went with. I mean, I love New Caledonian geckos. I mean, I would have wound up with Chihuahuas regardless and Leachianus regardless. But I still think that learning wise, crested geckos are the best animals you're going to get to learn how to properly care for chihuahuas and leechies and gargoyles and everything else. So I don't really regret that. I don't know that I would change anything. What would you do?
Also, me, if I can start over, I would have done exactly what no Mark was talking about. I would have had the whole game plan, lay everything out to how I wanted to, but it's also hard just because I see a gecko that I've been seeing in like who knows how long. I'm like, oh, I want that one. Now I got to reconfigure everything. Just like I said, I'm getting was it some those packies. Yeah, so now I gotta get different kind of enclosures because most of my stuff right now is arboreal. I have I have a little bit of terrestrial stuff, but not much. So now I gotta reconfigure some of my baker's racks to fit a lot more terrestrial geckos than what I planned on getting. Because I mean, for the most part, like I said, I love arboreal stuff, but when someone starts throwing curveballs my way, thank you, Jake. That dude, he's like, hey, what about these? I'm like, damn, dude, those are fire. So I got to go ahead and grab those for you. So, so I got to make adjustments. So, I mean, if in a perfect world, I would have had this all written down, drawn out. All right, this is how everything's going to be. But we don't live in a perfect world. So we kind of, as the hits come, I go ahead and try to take them. That's about
What
it.
kind of enclosures do you use for arboreal geckos? What are you going to use for arboreal geckos? Glass tanks, or what do you use for them?
Mostly, I mean, I have a blend of, I have PVCs so I have PVCs for my tropical, more high humidity, just because, like I said, I
I
live in
meant
Arizona.
terrestrial. I meant terrestrial. When you get the new ones, like what are you going to do for
Oh,
your terrestrial
um,
system? It's my bad.
well, no, you're all good. No, I'll probably get some 10-gallon tanks. I mean, they're micros, so they don't need crazy big space. So probably some 10 gallons. Set them up like that until, uh, you know, have some chats with somebody else about making some terrestrial ones for me. So once that happens, then like I said, they'll probably be in PVC as well. Because it won't cost as much just because, like I said, they're real small geckos. A 10, maybe a 15-gallon would be perfect for a pair, maybe even a trio. But like I said, it'll be probably just glass for right now because
Is
I
that
got
what
a couple.
Jake uses a lot of glass tanks, right? That's what they were saying.
Well, they
Oh no.
use glass and they use tubs. They do a blend of both. It just depends on the species. Just like with me, it depends on the species. Like those are arid desert geckos. They need it hot. They don't need all the misting like the rest of some of my other tropical stuff needs. So just put some sand down, put some probably get some slates or something, and so they can stay on the warm side. Do that. What is, I forgot what they call it, where they had the slates at different levels. But I was just probably gonna end up doing that in the tank, so they can go to different levels, which heat is more comfortable for them.
Thermoregulate.
Yeah, well, yeah, the thermal. There's another. Someone did something, I forgot what it's called, but they used to like they would have slates like with different levels. Someone created it, called it something, but I forgot. Yeah, but essentially them, yeah, thermoregulating, figuring out where their happiness is with that stuff, right? So that's what I'm gonna end up doing with that stuff. Let's kind of talk so efficiency wise, right? Like so for you, how are you doing with yours? Like I mean, I'm pretty much yours is pretty much almost all streamlined, right? Because you're meant it's all like new cow. You have like the odds and ends, like your the knob tails and stuff like that. But predominantly, it's all streamlined for you, and where it's a lot easier
Yeah,
now. Do you?
reps. I use
Yeah,
reps. So
yeah. I was gonna
I
say,
got
do
a
you? What?
whiteboard. I got a
Okay,
whiteboard and a schedule,
okay,
and like clockwork, that schedule just repeats itself. On day one, I do rack one, two, rack two, day three, rack three, day four is all the odd stuff, the cave geckos, helmaheras, tokays, knobtails, all that. So, and then I'll have one day off, and then in between that, then I start over again. So everything gets fed or, taken care of twice a day. But like I've mentioned before, I'm like a nosy ass parent with my animals. I'm in all their shit every day. So if I see a dirty water dish or anything like that, then naturally I'm not waiting. I change it on site. But I'll still keep them on the rotation for that day. It just makes it easy for me. I don't have to really think about it. Where everything gets handled on a specific day, and then Alternating days is obviously like live bugs versus a mix. And then I got the species that only eat bugs, so it's those, but I break my racks up into those. I have my racks set up with the enclosures and everything that go together. Like they will be easy to feed on the same day. Chihuahuas are all on one day. Crested geckos are typically on 1 or 2 days. If I have three different styles, I got all the enclosure ones, I got all the babies in the bins, and then I have my rack of 6-quart bins where the grow out crested geckos are in. I usually do all of those on the same day. And then I also have breeder crested geckos, which are on a separate day because I got to look for eggs, and they have bigger water dishes and they just take a little bit longer. So I'll do those on a separate day. And then I got frogs too. My frogs, my African bullfrogs, they get thrown in on the same day as all like the random geckos, I'll call, the odd stuff.
Yeah.
But
So with like in your room, right? So it's generally you're just going off like relative humidity instead of like having to spray everything down, right?
I do once in a blue moon, but yeah, I control the ambient of this room. I got 2 humidifiers,
Yeah. What do you aim for?
like 70%, 75% humidity in the room. And then temperature wise, same thing, about 70 to 75.
Okay.
Granted, it gets higher. It does get higher during the day. It'll get up to 80 some days, and the humidity, if it's super hot and humid outside, ultimately it makes it easier for the room to get humid, if you will. So it gets upwards of 80. I've had an 82% in here, but I painted the room with an antimicrobial basement / garage paint, it's an
Okay.
anti-mildew
Nice.
paint, So I mean, I did take steps before I came into this room. I knew what it was going to be. So being a carpenter by trade, I know a little, I know a few tricks, So I did what I could to get this room uh, where I wanted it to be for what I was going to do. But I do keep water bowls in enclosures for ambient humidity, and it works. But it's also an added, you know, task when I'm changing enclosures. I have to change water dishes, So it's you know, yeah, it is what
Yeah.
it is. I prefer it over misting.
Yeah. I mean, I do both. I got water bowls and misting. Oh, what about you, Mark? Because I know, like I said, you work with a lot of different stuff. So how are you going about being efficient in that in your large collection?
I do mist, guys. I just don't mist every day. I do mist without a doubt. I have 15 different powered pump gallon misters I mist, just not
Yeah.
every day. I use the water dishes so I do not have to mist every day. And I believe in a drying out period also.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For me, so I've done a few. I have two separate rooms. I have my garage and I have this room. This room is where I started in, and now I pretty much have the majority of everything in my garage except for leaf tails. And this room I'm turning into my leaf tail room. I
Hey.
Yeah, this is gonna be for leaf tails. Pretty much, it's just been like I said, constant evolving. In the garage, it was 2 years of testing with just the garage was basically empty with thermostats all around, and I just testing the different temperatures. I did 2 years because some 1 year, 1 year it could be not the hottest summer, and the next year all of a sudden it hit a hotter temperature, and I just wanted to make sure. A lot of that crested gecko care would tell you, oh, don't pass 74. So I wanted to make sure we're good before I decided to. I like to see things for myself.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a big, but heat gun, thermostats, and then basically the placement of where I have specifically placed it along which walls. I'm not putting crested geckos along the garage door because the garage door naturally projects more heat coming through than the two concrete walls on the side. So
Oh
my
yeah,
crested
yeah.
geckos are on the concrete walls on the side, and my day geckos line up the garage door. The day geckos and the desert geckos are on the bottom of the day geckos, and that will naturally give them a higher temperature. So for the day geckos, I don't heat lamps on them because the LED lights are naturally putting out a little bit extra heat in there, plus the garage door coming through. And then crested geckos are on the concrete walls, so that keeps them a little cooler. And I have fans blowing through those, so it works. It's been working for me. It works. And then as far as the desert geckos, I keep things in a little bit larger enclosures than what they should be. And for me, it's to give that thermal gradient at the end of the day. So if like for the most part, all my geckos are keep them in between 75 and 85 degrees, 50% and 70% humidity. So if I go through the list of animals that I have, everything is between those parameters. So for the most part, I keep the basis parameter all around and then I go in each tank and I will adjust. If this tank needs more humidity, well, that tank I'm adding moss to it. I'm adding extra plants that hold humidity on bromeliads and things like that. I may have two nozzles instead of one nozzle, and I'm pretty much I'm pretty sure you're the same way too. But I have schedules, but even off schedule, I'm in there looking at things. If I see something dirty, I'm taking it out. If I see a spot a little bit drier, I'm misting handheld. You know, every now and then, I look at this like I do some crazy stuff, guys. I'm gonna admit to everybody right now, I do some crazy stuff. All right, I'll come in there and all of a sudden there's a thunderstorm outside. And I'm like, well, thunderstorm inside, guys. I'm putting the Mist King on for 10 minutes and I'm
Oh yeah.
emptying the whole water. Everybody, it was a thunderstorm. I do stuff like that. I'll go in there and I'll put my speaker and I'll play music from the jungle and you just hear the sounds. I do different, I even put thunderstorms on the music just to simulate that noise and things like that. And I'll sit in there and just you hear the music in the background. I got the Mist King on full smash, and I'm walking around spraying the crested gecko bins, like just so in my mind it's like they hear that stuff or they
Awesome.
feel if outside it's pouring, then the atmospheric is rising.
They're
So
feeling all
I
that
hit
barometric pressure.
barometric pressure. That's where I was going with it. And then I'm increasing that myself in their tanks and stuff. I do a lot of different things, but placement of where I have the enclosures is basically key for me in maintaining those different temperatures and humidity levels for each individual animal.
That's huge. Even when you like same situation here, when you control a room, I control this room, but there's still clearly different spots of the room that are different temperatures and different humidities. It's placement, animal placement, enclosure placement is key. I have that one whole wall. I have nothing on because of that reason. Sun beats on that wall in front of me all day. That's where my frogs are on that wall. They come from Africa. They can handle it. Nothing. I don't put anything on that wall.
Yeah, and fans and placement of fans, no matter what, just to keep airflow, air movement in the. I must have now. I'm looking into. I have my AC guy building me a split. And what they call it. I
Air
don't know what it's
exchange. What, a mini split
a
for
mini
the
split for the garage. Just and it's not that I need it. I just want to be able to
for air
control it
exchange?
even
Turn the
better.
air over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I like the way it is. I like how everything's doing, but I'm like, if I could add a little mini split in here just to control it a little even better. And that's what I mean about setting. That's one of the things I would change from the beginning. You know, I wish I had decided I was gonna use the garage because I would have done the floors. I would have put a mini split. I would have put certain and have it more prepared instead of now having to constantly go in and do these things.
All
It takes
right.
the fun
So
out of it.
It does. It does. Listen, that's one of my favorite things. I'm a visual person. So constantly setting up the room and redoing it, my wife will tell you she hates when I get vacation from work because I I can't vacation. I just find work for myself. So I'll start a 2 week vacation, and I'm on Monday. I'm up like this whole room is not set up right. You know that? We like look at the tanks. They're not even in order. You got these three tanks are tall, then all of a sudden this one's short, and you got tall tanks down here. Wouldn't it look better if we put all the tall tanks together and the short ones together? And my wife is like, oh, man,
Go back
here,
to work.
yeah,
Go back to work.
yeah.
It's like, get out of
So
here. I don't want to hear this shit.
there, but that's been the constant. Even noticing your soil mixtures. Oh, this mixture I added this, and this mixture I didn't add that, and it's holding more humidity than this one. This one's getting soaked. This one's getting dry. It it's constant. It's constant.
All right, so we got a question from Casa Caldonia. She wants to know what are some tips for to keep a healthy eggs through incubation.
To keep you want to take this?
And what do you do? Don't keep them too wet. That's for sure. Don't keep them too wet. Don't keep them too dry. Don't keep
It's
opening
all
boxes and letting humidity out. I mean,
yeah.
I
And it's
don't know
also
how to
like
answer that one.
species dependent, right? Because like so with like your Platis, right? You see folks get the dry media in a bottle cap, boom, and then put wet media around it so it doesn't so all the wetness doesn't touch that hard shelled egg, and then next you know develops some kind of bacteria or fungus, right? So
The thing is, they're
simple
not
shit like
permeable like another egg, so they can't regulate humidity as much as these soft eggs that are buried underground. I watched a whole Frank Payne video on it the other day when I just collected my second clutch of Abenawi eggs. Broke one of them, man. Terrible.
damn.
Yeah, pissed me off, man. That's twice. Twice. I
Don't
got
worry,
two
dude.
eggs in there
I broke.
incubating from Abenawi. I broke one egg from each clutch so far. I don't know how people collect them. Like, it's impossible. I went out and bought all new enclosures now to put them in different enclosures. It's those are all the little front opening ones. I went and bought 4 little nano tall 8 by 12 inch things so I could reach in the front because I was using 8 by 12s, but I got the ones with the top screen, so I had to go
Oh
in
damn.
and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got them all planted, and it's like
That's a
impossible.
pain in the ass.
Terrible, terrible. When I watched the Frank Payne video on them, and he was talking about it, harder shelled eggs aren't permeable or semi-permeable like the soft shelled eggs. So those soft shelled eggs, if you ever had one that's been dehydrated, you'll see how you can wrap them in a paper towel and they'll blow wet paper towel and they'll blow right back up. They can absorb humidity. The same way they absorb humidity, they lose humidity. Hard shell eggs cannot do that. So because they cannot do that, you need to keep them away from humidity or else they just get waterlogged and they'll drown. In theory, the eggs will drown. But they still need to be humid. You have to kind of mimic them, imagine a pile of leaves on the ground, where if you ever went out in the fall and it's not rained or anything, but you pick up a pile of leaves, they may be dry on top, but the leaves in the middle are kind of wet, they'll be wet on the
Yeah,
inside of the
yeah.
leaf litter. So you got to try to mimic that, I guess. It's
The
nonetheless.
thin ones get the humidity more from the air than the other ones are soaking it in.
The ones that are buried would. The ones
Buried,
that are
yeah.
buried in the ground would get their moisture from, the surrounding substrate.
So let me ask you something, because you guys both do crested geckos. Now, are crested gecko eggs do they feel the same as a Chihuahua egg? Because I know Chihuahua eggs are pretty calcified. So do you think,
I've
like for
had.
Chihuahua,
Sorry, do
I
I
was gonna
think for
say, do you
chillers?
think Chihuahua eggs should be doing the same thing as for like a Europlatus or anything like that? Because they're pretty hard. So should they be above the wet medium?
I'm incubating them now like that. I have a clutch of eggs,
Okay.
2 clutches, a mainland clutch and a Pine Island clutch. I'm incubating like that now, just because both of those clutches were not buried. Chihuahuas have had them bury them, but they typically do not bury them, as where crested geckos will always dig a hole and bury their eggs. Chihuahuas do not. So with that being said, that very idea had crossed my mind, and I was like, if they're not burying these, they could probably incubate and hatch this way. So now I'm doing that. I have them on dry substrate in an incubator with 99% humidity on dry substrate. and they haven't hatched yet, but they're growing, they're swelling like normal. You know,
Okay.
I'll
What
be
about you, Mark?
interested to find out, but I absolutely am on a mission to find out. But it makes perfect sense, you know. And they don't feel the same. Crested gecko eggs are kind of spongy. They feel almost like a
Yeah.
snake's egg, you know, kind of little
Yeah.
leathery.
I mean,
You know,
there's a little soft, right?
Chihuahua eggs aren't exactly an Ebanawi egg or a chicken egg per se, but
No, but
they're
you can hear it when
shark skin.
you tap it. You can hear it.
Yeah, they're definitely calcified per se, but I mean, as you know, they don't crack open. They slice
No.
their way out, you know, like
Yeah.
a snake would, or something else. Certain Ebanawis and those other small geckos, like ones that Wally works with, will hatch. They will crack out of an egg.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
lot of my geckos are doing that right now. My
see, there you go.
Cerdodactylus, yeah, my Cerdodactylus, they
Chunks of
make a
the
little
egg go breaking
pop.
off, right? No.
Yeah. My
See,
Haemophilus,
that's
same thing.
that's what I would consider a calcified egg. Well, the other ones are clearly calcified or more calcified, but nothing like those type of chicken eggs.
Think it's just different because you have the thin shell and then you have the thin, harder shell compared to the thicker, soft shell. So the way they're calcified is different. My experience with the Chihuahuas, I had it also happen with Cresties. You see, instead of it being that smooth, leathery surface that you Ant was talking about, you see like rigid of calcium on the egg, like camouflage pattern looking on the egg. Instead of it being smooth, you see all this excess of calcium all over the place, you know. But Chihuahua, I've always incubated them just like Crusties without.
They're very similar to lychee eggs, very similar to Leachianus eggs, and crested geckos and gargoyle eggs are, I find, to be very similar. Garg eggs are a little bit bigger, a little longer, but same texture, similar texture, and Chihuahuas and Leachianus are exactly the same, just different sizes.
Yeah, I don't breed or have ever bred lychees, but I see Chihuahua, Gargoyle, and Cresties a lot similar. Size difference, yes, but I've had crested geckos lay eggs, and you think that this is from a Chihuahua or something, like they're huge. Yeah, and same thing for gargoyles. And then I've had them lay small eggs. I think that just matters the parent. It's crazy the size of the eggs that come.
Yeah, I guess now that you say it, the more I think about it, you're right. They're just smaller. I guess they're not necessarily much different. 'Cause they still all use egg teeth and cut out of the egg, right? Like they all do slice themselves out. So maybe they just seem less calcified. Crested gecko eggs seem less calcified because they're smaller. Maybe that's what I'm noticing.
Have any of you guys ever had gotten like mold or anything on them eggs during the incubation period?
Dead
Yeah,
one,
yeah. I've gotten the dead ones.
Okay.
You also,
None that were living, like none that you had to like clean off or
which I
anything
think
like
is
that.
amazing. That mold or whatever it may be, whatever the driving force is that I've had two eggs in the same little chamber of the egg box. One not be fertile, one fertile. The one that's not will grow mold. The one that is fertile will not grow mold. Like it's mind blowing. And they're right next to each other. Right next to each other, yet the mold will not grow on the living egg.
yeah,
I don't know. I've definitely wondered what the hell it is, though. Why?
and also the media. I've had mold grow from the media, and what happens is as the egg hatches, that yolk, if you don't clean out that yolk or scoop it out, that
Yeah.
that eventually turns into mold and will start spread. But just like he said, it for some reason does not spread onto the good eggs.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
if an egg is dead, you see that mold come. It's interesting.
So do you guys, after the season's over with, do you guys toss out that media or do you like boil it, reuse it?
I
I
don't.
boil it. I
Okay.
boil it, reuse it.
Yeah. Yeah. I boil it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I let it
Well,
dry
I mean,
out.
not the hatch, right? Like the stuff, not the
White stuff.
perlite stuff, but the like that Pangea or whatever it is.
I use the Rapashi.
Yeah, the Rapashi hatch.
Yeah, I
Like
use that.
I boil that, let it dry, put it back in the bag, seal it up. But the other stuff I got, where are you at? I don't know where it's at right now, but yeah, it's like that. It's called hatch right, and it looks like looks like perlite, but it's already moistened for you. So I don't reuse that. After
Buy
the season's up, it's over. It's out.
buy it in big ass bags.
Yeah,
It's not hatch right or whatever, but it's the same stuff. It's
it's
like
that. It's the clay,
something
right?
that
That's the clay.
clay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
hatch right is.
yeah. It's all branding. That's all that is.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that Pangea hatch, that clay stuff, that's reusable. You can use that over and over again. You just got to sanitize it, boil the hell out of it, drain it out, strain it, let it dry, put it back in the bag. And then use it again next year. But
I want to try vermiculite. I've always heard people, and when I was younger and had some, I think they were rat snakes. I had some snake lay eggs on me by accident once when I was a kid, and they weren't ever fertile. They never hatched, but I was probably 10 years old, and I used vermiculite. But that's the only time I ever used it in my life, man. I always
I
wanted to
mean,
try
I use
vermiculite.
it for my lay bin for my chauffeurs. I just
Oh, for
mix.
real?
Yeah, I use vermiculite and
Wet
sand.
or dry? Use it wet?
Oh, I wet it. I wet it up. So like every time I go in to go feed, I get the water bowl, dump it into the lay bin, boom, fill up the water bowl. If I looks like I need to add a little bit more water to that lay bin, I'll add a little bit more. But no, it stays pretty moist in there for
I
the
use it
most
for
part.
gardening a lot of like planting and stuff.
Yeah, not. I
I've
think
always
that's what
meant
it's
to use
for.
it. I just never have.
Yeah.
Same thing with the
Next
perlite.
year, I'm going to incubate in vermiculite.
Let's see here. So let me ask you. So what have been some of the biggest challenges keeping these large collections? Like I know probably Mark's is a little bit different from yours, and just because Mark has like a bunch of different species.
I got a whole
Like
lot more geckos than I got.
The biggest. So it all goes back to the beginning and evolution for me. One of the biggest challenges is just as it's an amazing experience to continue to evolve as you go along. One of the biggest challenges is setting projects and developing the space for those projects, especially if I'm going to evolve that project into a program. Like there's certain things I needed to cut back on or completely delete from my collection because I needed to have enough space to be able to breed these animals and get to the goal that I'm setting for this program or project. So that's one of the biggest challenges. Saying to myself, well, you know what? I want to get into strophers. Am I going to just keep one as a pet? Am I going to breed a pair? When I do breed a pair, what size enclosures do I need to have? How many eggs are they going to have a year? Are these extra tanks set up and ready for them as hatchlings, as juveniles? What if I don't sell any? What if I don't want to sell any? What if I want to keep them? Do I have adult tanks for them? Am I going to introduce a second bloodline to be able to offer different bloodlines and just getting that down packed? Also, a system. I'm very operational from my job. So it's basically just developing a system and a schedule that you need to stick to ensure it's like getting your paycheck every Saturday. You guaranteed a paycheck every Saturday as long as you go to work. You're guaranteed success in your gecko room as long as you're doing these things. That's bottom line things. Everything else after that is extra, you know. So if I could I have developed a system, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is feeding days for me in order to give myself a Saturday to do stuff like this, or take pictures or go out with the family and things like that. Tuesdays and Thursdays will be everything else. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm feeding and I do spot cleaning when I feed and stuff. I missed, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, those are cleaning days for me, or tank setup days, or whatever the case, whatever it is. And that's made it super easy for me when it comes to that. And then I have my son that helps me while I'm at work. So that cuts the time down. The first couple of years I was doing everything myself. So I would be up till 2, 3 in the morning daily doing things like that. Now,
Ugh.
yeah, it becomes a lot. And now my son is older, he's into it more with me. My wife doesn't handle the animals or the insects and things like that. She'll feed fruit flies and she'll do misting and she'll do cleaning. as long as I remove the animals from the bin. But it still helps, you know. So with that, I was able to have a larger scale of animals because I have the help. And now I organized it into a Monday. Like my son he does a 9 to 5. So Monday 9 a.m. It depends on his schedule, but from 9 to 5, my whole collection gets fed and misted.
Nice.
By time I get home, if he was slacking a bit today and he still got stuff, I'll help him finish. If not, he probably finished 2 3 o'clock and he'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna go jump ahead and start cleaning this section." I have every section with the letter, so he'll, "Hey, Dad, I started cleaning section D today." And I'm like, "All right, so let's finish cleaning section D when I come home," or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, everything gets fed and water. Monday through Friday, all of my micro geckos get fruit flies. And I'm so damn, I hope I don't get canceled for this. So I'm a bit different, man. You know, you're gonna take your crested gecko and you're gonna throw 4 crickets in there and you fed them on Monday. I'm gonna take my crested gecko and I'm probably gonna throw 8 in there. Okay? It probably ate 5, but I know that if it gets hungry tomorrow, it'll eat the other 3. And then on Wednesday, I'm feeding Pangea, and I see those crickets eat the Pangea from the cup. So if a gecko eats a cricket after that, now it's stuffed not only with the veggies that I fed the crickets, but it also ate Pangea, and it's pooping and eating. And if the cricket gets around to get eaten inside the bin, it's just extra. So it
Hell
gives
yeah.
them.
No, I mean, you should. No, ain't no way in hell you get canceled for that bullshit. Like, I mean, what's the difference between that and you having a bioactive with all these isopods in there, and they go foraging for it, so they eat what they want, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that I
that's what
do
my
that. I do that also. Like my day gecko tanks, I'm throwing crickets. I throw fruit flies. I have millipedes in there. I have isopods in there. Like, you want to eat an isopod, eat an isopod. They're there for you, bro. You know, millipede baby. If you want to eat one of those, they're there for you. You you want to hatch in the tank? Well, guess what? You're gonna find the fruit fly running around in there. Enjoy. You know, and all my cresties are on mulch. All my cresties are on mulch except for the laying females. My laying females are on paper towel, and I normally will just hit them with roaches, or every now and then I'll throw in some crickets. Usually the adults, when they get to a certain point, they're not really attacking the crickets like that. So, but I still offer it to them no matter what. And then after a few days, if they haven't eaten it, I take them out. But everything gets extra. So that way you can hunt for it, you can go to the bowl, you just never know what's in there. Enjoy. I like to feed extra. So I know some
I
people
know.
are worried about the crickets biting the cresties, and I've never seen a cricket eat on a cresty my entire career. I've also, if it's a baby, I've also fed adult crickets, not full grown adults, but maybe a medium sized cricket, and the some people will say don't feed it unless it fits in between the eyes, or bro, a crested gecko is gonna attack just like a chahua or just like a lychee or tokay. I've seen baby crested geckos attack a bigger cricket, shake them up, rip them
Yeah,
apart. Like, it's
they're not out in the wild like, oh, that cricket's too big for
So
me.
they don't get to pick sizes in a
yeah,
wild, man. It
yeah.
rarely comes
So
their way. If it was too big, hands down, without a doubt, they wouldn't even try to eat it. They're only biting it if they know they can eat it, man. They ain't stupid. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to eat it. And very rarely will they eat it and throw it back up. They'll regurgitate it
Yeah.
if it's,
So
too big for their stomach.
the only time I've ever seen that happen is after feeding a crested gecko, handling it, and I had one get scared and throw it up and take off on me.
okay. I mean,
That's it.
I've had a
Or
Stropharis throw up after eating. I threw in like 5 crickets, And literally the next day, I was like, "Is that a shit or is that throw up?" And it was throw up. So I was like, "All right, cool." So now I'm just like, "All right, don't feed 5 crickets. I usually 3 to 4 crickets, unless it's breeding season. Then, well, breeding season, I generally throw like 10 crickets in and see what happened. And usually they take them all down. She's like, "Nope, I need all this nutrients." But if it's non-breeding season, she gets like maybe 3 to 4 crickets at the most. Ever since I saw that.
I've even developed a little system, right? Because all my cresties are on mulch, right? Check this out. So I throw the adults do not eat crickets that often, but I still throw them in. The adult crickets have babies in the mulch, and the babies start living in there, growing, and I will come in routinely, take out baby crickets, use that for my micro geckos and my baby day geckos and
There
my
you go.
Europlatus, and it's just like cycles. So we'll go through different bins and say, hey, this one has a lot of baby crickets. Scoop them all out, feed them, you know. And I
Right.
see they eat the Pangea. They come to the Pangea bowl
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
will be
definitely.
lined up all around it.
Yep.
So,
The same thing with the like I said, the Chihuahua enclosure I got over here. It's filled with super worms. So no, they got babies all up in there. So when I put Pangea in there, boom, they'll get them, and I grab all those little baby super worms, and I feed it, and I give them to my girl so she could feed it to her jumping spiders. Because she got, when you talking about a lot, damn, like those egg sacs, man. There's like 90 per egg sack in them things, man. She had like 4 of them already.
oh my God.
Yeah, right. I was like, man, but so you're talking about, because I'm sure people are like, what? Your breeder's on paper towel? No, but I'm sure you got like like a lay box in there full of, like, what do you use? You use sphagnum, or are you using
I
topsoil, or what?
use sphagnum for
Hmm.
everything.
Okay.
Even the geckos that are on mulch, I have a cup of sphagnum moss in there. And that's more security for me because with the mulch it stays pretty humid, right? But I like to have the sphagnum in there as well because again, my son takes care of 9 to 5 and I'm at work. Sometimes I travel for a week. So I know, for instance, if he's not as observant as I am. So if it's just spraying the moss and you don't get the mulch, it still provides them with humidity and somewhere to lick. All my all my juvenile and adults have water bowls and food bowls and a cup of moss, so they get water bowls. But the babies, for the most part, at least they are able. You find them hiding in the mulch, you find them hiding in the moss. I never have no shed issues. I never have no stuck shed on toe. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So it works. It lasts a little bit longer than paper towel. The mulch, I basically, for $20, you buy excuse me, it's, let's say, $3 per bag, 10 bags, $30 for mulch. And I leave it in the bins for 2 months, 2.5 months. I'm not perfect. Maybe it'll go 3 before I throw it out. So it's $30 every 3 months compared to a roll of paper towel, a
Yeah.
24 pack that is 20, and you're flowing through the paper towel, all having to change it every week. It saves time for me.
What brand mulch do you use, Mark?
I use the I use the one from Home Depot. The brand is, I'll tell you right
I get
now,
mine. That's where I get it too. I use that Mothers or whatever.
it's
Mothers.
it's no float cypress blend. There is no name besides no float.
Yeah, I swear by it too, man. I use it in well, most of my bins. Love
Yeah,
that stuff.
it works and is way cheaper, and I feel like it gives them,
It's a little touch of
besides
nature,
a
man. It
little
holds
touch of nature.
moisture. It's a all
It's
around
rough,
great product. Yeah,
yeah. And then
helps
I
them with
have
the shedding.
springtails and everything. Springtails grow naturally. Like you put springtails in there and they duplicate, they duplicate.
Oh,
So
they come in there. They're definitely they're in the mulch, man.
they're in the mulch. Like, and I don't do isopods yet, because I'm trying to figure out, like, if I do isopods and I put isopods in every single bin, when I throw out the mulch, am I throwing out all these isopods, or what am I going to do with all of these isopods? Now it becomes more expensive. So
Oh
I've
yeah,
just been rocking out with the springtails and
makes sense.
spot cleaning. I still spot clean everything,
Yeah.
it works.
All right. So got a question here from look like Zendaya Crusties. It's like, all right, if you could pick a species to become as popular as crested geckos, which one or ones would you like to see gain more popularity moving ahead in the hobby?
For me, is day geckos.
Which ones?
All of them. Like, there's so many day gecko
I love
species.
like
You
for
know,
day geckos, I love the Cipidianas. Those ones.
yeah, yeah,
Those are like my
yeah,
favorite. Like for out
yeah.
of day geckos, I love those things.
There's so many different species that it's like, I mean, if you want a pet that you're gonna hold, I feel like a lot of people are not even holding their cresties. It's just easy. It's an easier pet to have and take care of, and people hold them and stuff, but they're not walking around the street with their crested gecko on them and things. They gecko, you can literally see them interact with you during the day. You see them running around, or you see them hunt. Like, these things are very intelligent. They're super easy, just like they're not hard as I guess it's out there. I don't know why they're not as popular, but I love the day geckos, the colors and stuff, and how active they are.
What about you, Ant?
It sounds ridiculous, but they're big shoes to fill, right? Like, in order for an animal to become as popular as a crested gecko, you would have to fill some of the niches that crested geckos fill. They reproduce easily, they're easy to keep, they require very little, and they come in lots of colors. There's not many species that can do that, hence the popularity of them. So when you think about it, what geckos come to mind? Your leopard geckos, your African fat-tailed geckos are getting there. It's hard. Again, crested geckos, people feel the way they do about them. You either love them or you hate them. But they're as popular as they are for a very unique reason. Same thing as ball pythons. I think the colors that ball pythons come in are amazing, but I do not like ball pythons as animals. I think they're very lame snakes, right? They don't do much of anything. So if I'm just going to pick an animal like, boom, this is a great animal despite morphs and colors and husbandry tips and tricks, they're just a really cool species that should be more popular, I would probably, damn, that's a hard question, man. It's much harder than I thought. If I could pick one animal to be more popular,
And say one or two animals. It says one or So if you got a couple of them, you think, go ahead.
some of the animals that I think would be more, would make better animals or be just as good would lose their value to me should they be more popular. So it's damn, man. I mean, I think Saracenorums, right? Like, Saracenorums are seriously underrated. Saracenorums, personality wise, size wise, ease of care, they have a lot of similarities to the crested geckos. I mean, being that they're related, no shit. They're a seriously underrated species. Again, the Halmahera. So if you're looking for an amazingly unique animal, Halmaheras are seriously underrated and not kept nearly as much as they should be. Damn, man. And then you could go into like all those, the Australian velvet geckos, the Tanzanian velvet geckos. I mean, there's some badass fucking geckos out there that, I mean, I'd be hard pressed. I wouldn't be doing my passion, which is geckos, any justice by picking one of them. So for that reason, I respectfully bow out. I cannot pick one. Cannot pick one.
Oh, that's,
I can't pick one. I can't pick one. Crested geckos fill the niche that they're in for that reason. They are as popular as they are because there is a flavor in taste for everybody, which is awesome for big box stores and breeders because they have an infinite amount of customers, right? You can cater to everybody. Certain species have much more natural beauty, but that natural beauty may not amuse everybody, so they will never make or fill the shoes of crested geckos? It's just too much. It's a loaded question, man. She's whoever asked that is trying to set me up, man. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Man,
I wouldn't do any animal like that. Crested geckos are what they are for a reason, man. I'll leave it at that, man. I don't. But there is a lot of underrated animals. I will admit that the genus, the gecko genus in general, is way more than four geckos, right? That our pet stores are full of your tokays, your cresteds, your leopard geckos, your day geckos. No offense to anybody, but like there is thousands, literally with a comma, thousands of other species of geckos. You know, got to find one that suits you and run with it. And who cares how popular it is? Who cares how popular it is if you like it? If you like it, if you love it, if you wake up every day and cannot wait to go to your room to take care of that animal, then that's the animal that people should keep regardless of how popular it is.
oh yeah, I feel that.
What about you?
Well, you know what? Because I
Every
was thinking.
gecko, buck crested geckos?
Well, I'm gonna throw a wrench in there too. And be like, all right, no, it just says a species, right? So I'm thinking like the anoles, because those some of those anoles can fit those parameters that you want out of your cresties, right? Some of them take that Pangea, some don't require that heat. They're some are pretty handleable. But then also, like I said, I love the Oidoras as well. I feel like those are, if they, well, I don't think they'll keep on coming out with all these morphs, but they're pretty handleable. Like I've been talking to Wyatt. He's like, yeah, you don't even need heat on them. You can just use the UV and get that gradient up to into the 80s, and you're good to go. So it's like, okay, cool. So you don't need crazy heat on them or anything like that. Those are probably like the two I would think of. I would like to be as popular as Cresties. Will it ever? Never. It never will be. I mean, unless Australia opens back up and we could get an influx of fucking geckos in, then you can start getting more bloodlines, and then you could discover all these probably different morphs there, probably over there. But it is what it
See, it's
is.
a trick question because in general, like you, for example, right? You like species. I don't mean to speak for you, but you gravitate to species
I
that
generally
people know
gravitate,
nothing about, right?
yeah, and
That
I
are less
gravitate
popular.
towards stuff that don't have morphs.
Exactly. So if they were to be more popular, that would just be one more animal on your list of things you don't want. You know what I'm saying? So these rarer geckos fill just as important of a niche as the popular ones. Some people
Yeah.
would not keep animals that every other person had just because every other person has them. If that makes any type of sense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sometimes that's the point of acquiring those
Yeah, keep them
animals because
something rare.
nobody
Keep
else
them
has
something
them. Yeah,
nobody else has, nobody else works with. Like it drives me nuts when some people get excited. They go online and be like, "Oh man, I got a crested gecko that looks just like that, and I got crested geckos that look just like that, and look like that." I'm like, damn. I start wanting to off shit when someone's like, "I got one that looks just like it." I'm like, well, fuck, it ain't gonna do me no good then. I want some shit that don't look like shit you got.
yeah, that's
You
true.
know?
And it's like I said, I don't want them to be popular. I just want to be, put a little bit
Well
more respect on that
recognized
name. Put some respect on them. That's about it. That's what I would
for sure.
wish. And I don't.
And if
I just
that's the
don't like it
case,
when people are like, "What is that?" It's like, come on, man. Like that, I hate hearing that. What is that? It's like, come on, broaden that knowledge. Get out of that, your lane. Open your horizons.
yeah, but not
You
everybody's
don't
gonna
have
know what
to.
a
Yeah, I
gecko
mean, you don't
from.
have to get all these, but expand your knowledge so you can have a conversation. That's my whole like, you talk to ball python people, that's all they know is fucking ball pythons. Like you ask them about anything, any other snake, they're like, what? No, I can tell you about this banana pie, blah blah, but you ask them to talk about some colubrid or another python, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I literally try to have a conversation with one person. All he breeds are ball pythons, and try to have a conversation about some other shit. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. Sorry. I was like, fuck
It's an
this.
ambiguous topic. You know what I'm saying? That's a hard one because you could go both angles with it, right? Like, not everybody. That's what separates human beings, right? Some human beings think in a much more complex manner. Some people only think about what they care about. If
Yeah,
if ball pythons are what makes person A tick, then with all due respect and rightfully so, worry about what you care about. You know what I'm saying? But if snakes are what you care about, then you should be a little more versed in species and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But if that's like I'm a carpenter, right? I work with all aspects of the job and all the trades. I work side by side with all the trades. If a landscaper starts trying to talk to me about mowers and shit like that and grass, I'm gonna be like, yo, dog. I mean, with all due respect, you do a great job. I could care fucking less, man. I could care fucking less about the right way to cut a lawn, dog. I'm calling you to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm calling you. You know?
It's like master and jack. You have master of none and jack of all,
Yeah,
or you have the
I like being
master.
a I like being jack of all trades. You
You
know,
know,
I know a little but a lot. You know,
is different camps. You know a little bit about a lot of things, and some people are just specialists in that one thing. I don't care about nothing else but ball pythons. You talk to me about a yellow one, and
yeah,
I don't I don't go ask Anthony. He deals with the yellow ones, like you
Yo,
said.
speaking of yellow, man, I finally saw the picture of those yellow guards you put up, bro. Yo, fire, Mark, fire. I don't think there's one other person, well, clearly you know, but one other person that has true yellow guards, man, is fucking Paul, man. Paul Morlock. I've never seen, other than his, you have legit yellow gargoyles, bro. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I missed out. I was trying to talk to Paul, but his table at Daytona was so packed, and I'm like,
So you
I'm
did
not
go.
even.
So
He
you
was
went.
there. He was there. Yeah, he was there. Him and his
You went,
wife.
though. You
I
went.
went. I went yesterday. Yeah,
Yes.
I did. I did. It was cool. It was cool. I talked to David at Tiki's. I showed him a few pictures and stuff, and at the end of the day, it's a vision. You see what it is. It's gonna take years to refine and perfect if it could be done. I wanted to talk to Paul more about it, but it's not definite like a yellow gargoyle. I mean, you
Has he
see the
seen him?
yellow.
Did you show him?
Paul looked at a few babies that I had at a table one day. We discussed it. We geeked out over them for like 2 hours, and we discussed a few things. And it's just basically like I'm not saying I have yellow gargoyles, just
You
to clear
do.
that,
You
but they're yellow gargoyles. Now, they when it comes to gargoyles, what I learned is there's base color, there's different forms of gargoyles that they're saying. So I'm not the morph expert on gargoyles or anything, but what I see in mine is an enhanced yellow. And you can only really appreciate it when you're in person looking at them because the camera starts to turn them a little orangey. In person, my gargoyles are yellow and they have a lot of it. So it's just me in my mind. It'll take a few years, but I'm just gonna keep on stacking and working it through and adding whatever little yellow gargoyle. And I only like the blotch reticulated ones. I don't really attract. I'm not attracted to the stripe ones. So
video on that
anything
one.
anything stripes come, I send it out. Anything that's orange and red, have a nice day. This is for one of you guys that are working with that. But anything that's pale white with a lot of yellow, I keep, and I'm gonna keep working. Hopefully, in 10 years, I'll have or sooner than that. But let's see what happens, man. They're yellow though,
They're yellow. The picture I saw, the picture you posted, that Joker is yellow, man. Ain't no doubt about it. It's like
right?
gold, man. It's yellow. Gold.
Yeah, yeah. I have two males and I believe it's six females that are yellow like that, and babies growing as well. So let me see.
Right. So let's talk about some breeding, right? So for like your breeding programs, so what's your thought process going into that? Like when you're going into a project, what's your whole thought process on that stuff for both of y'all? Go ahead,
It's
Hank.
got to be a goal, right? Like every
Yeah, yeah.
pairing, the goal should never be to just make more animals. I mean, that shouldn't have to be said. You know what I'm saying? I mean, unless it's certain species, then yes, But with crested geckos, my goal is never to just make more animals. It's to always improve on something, to enhance something, to compound something, or even water something down. Like me and Mark were talking about on Palm Street, I've been trying to take phantom lily whites and breed them for the least amount of saturation possible. Like I want the least. I'm trying to suppress the lily gene in phantom so I can get other traits to show. There's different expressions, if you will. Some animals are higher expression, which would be like again, I don't want to say higher saturation of the gene because the gene is or it isn't, but so I'm trying to work on certain animals to lower the expression of the lily gene so I can increase, the other genes, if that makes any type of sense. But there's usually always a plan, right? Every pairing should have a plan, and that plan should definitely be anything other than just to make more animals. With crested geckos, obviously there's other animals out there where that is only your goal, to reproduce more animals. Healthier, good, but if they weren't healthy, you shouldn't be breeding them to begin with. There's always a goal. Every pair I have has a different objective. I have a different objective with every pairing.
What about you, Mark?
Similar, to piggyback off of what Anthony was saying. Um, yeah, I believe myself. Yes, I'm pairing to breed more animals, but in the sense of it's a program. So for me, again, evolution. I've learned a lot. I learned a lot, and developing programs versus projects for certain animals to continue breeding towards the future. I was fortunate enough that I learned when I first started in the beginning, breed for a goal and then try working towards that goal. So I held back a lot of my animals in the beginning. I didn't just buy animals, breed them, and start selling right away. I held them back, watched them grow. I saw certain things, I learned certain things, and then I finally decided where I'm going to refine certain things and where I'm going to move forward for the next version of myself, so to speak. So that was the beginner version, and now I'm heading towards a little bit more advanced breeding, because you got to start from something. Not everybody's fortunate enough to have friends to teach them these things. So I learned the hard way in the beginning, and now I'm refining those processes, and I'm basically deleting so many different things to be able to refine, select things, and continue going in those directions. And for me, it's just dedicating certain amounts of space for those individual projects. That's what I focus on a lot, like where I'm going with these projects, how much space do I need to dedicate for these projects, because like Anthony has a bunch of those red ones, and you're holding them back, and you don't need to sell nothing. And that's what I want to do with certain projects is, hey, yeah, I'm making more geckos, but the Dalmatians are getting better and better and better and better. And if I don't want to sell one for 4 years, I'm not selling. I don't have to, and they can live here until they're adults and stay here as adults until I decide I'm going to start selling these animals or offering them.
More animals, Mark, but you're not making them like what I meant was you're not just making animals. Like it doesn't like you're not just taking this animal and don't care what the genes or the traits are, and
Yeah,
this animal and
yeah,
don't care what the genes are. You're
no,
just putting them together
no,
because you know they're going to make babies. You
yeah,
have specific objectives with every pairing. You're not just saying, oh, well, that's a male and that's a female. They're going to make babies.
no, no.
You know what I'm saying? Other than your day geckos and other species, but with your crested geckos, you are strategically pairing them for an ultimate goal.
Yeah, everything. And like I said, from the beginning, I may not have had such a strategic, but it was always towards something. I'm pairing this lily white to make higher expression lily whites. I'm pairing this one to make lower expression. And going forward, I always had a listen. I'm going with 4 different pairs of Dalmatians, 4 different bloodlines, so that way down the line, as I hatch all the babies, I can start crossing the bloodlines of all the ones that have the ink spots. I could do red spots and just continue able to. And I have that for, like, even with my peacock day geckos, I have some high red expression ones that, okay, the project is I have 2 different bloodlines, and we're going to keep back the highest red expression ones to be able to cross those in the future. So that's why I'm breeding those. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. And sometimes, hey, I have to stop a program. Like this season, I may not be breeding them. Why? Because I don't have the space to hold the babies or keep them to grow up. So I might put a pause on this and say, okay, let me finish this, that, the other, and I'll probably do that one next year. I'm never in a rush to do stuff neither.
That says
But
a
I have
lot
a
about breeders, man. That says a lot to me about breeders. Like, and unfortunately, it's a very rare thing. I can name on 5 hands, on 5 fingers, the guys that I know personally that will just flat out give animals the season off. You, Nelson from NCG, guys will have animals and be like, you know what, I'm just not breeding this animal this year. People have this crazy thing in their head, like, oh, I have breeding age animals that they all have to breed every year. They do not. You do not have to breed every animal of breeding age in your collection every year. It's like beating a dead horse, man. You can't get people to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what good are you? I mean, unless you're breeding animals that again are going to contribute to a future program or project, then God bless you. But if you're just going to produce animals because you have breeding age animals and those animals are just going to sit in your collection in bins, will you try to find someone that you can convince to buy them from you? I mean, why breed the animal? Breed less, focus on the ones you are breeding and have specific plans with, and tighten up. So it says a lot. It speaks volumes about a breeder when they can openly admit that I'm not breeding these animals this year because I got other things I'm paying attention to. So this animal will take the season off, and I'm going to work on, breeding the animals that I'm going to pair to this one in 2 seasons from now. It's huge. It says a lot. It says a lot about the quality of person.
Definitely. All right, let me find. Let's see here. All right. Was it Wendelin Garcia? Cleaning and feeding routines. The importance of quarantining any new reptiles. Giving credit to the person who produced the reptiles, regardless if the reptile was bought from a third party or the breeder. Is not a big breeder. I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on some of those?
Facts. If you didn't breed them, who gives a fuck how big the breeder is or how small the breeder is? If you did not breed that animal, you do not lay claim to breeding that animal. This animal came from so and so. Tag him in. That's respect, man. Damn. I mean, that shouldn't have to be said either, man. If any animal I get from Mark or something, I post a picture of it anywhere in that post. Mark's name is going to be somewhere in that post that this animal came from the gecko room. It's sad that unfortunately, you guys probably both know, but my nephew came into this, so I've been mentoring my nephew, right? And the whole reason these red geckos got out that I've been working with, that you guys both know the story. When I first started working with them, everybody told me don't work with them. They're old, people won't want them. You're just forget about it. So I had always had that in the back of my head, but worked with them because I liked them. I enjoyed them, so whatever. I didn't breed them to sell. I was breeding them for me. So I had a bunch of them and was making a bunch of them. And I gave my nephew, when he got started in this, I gave him a bunch of them. Unbeknownst to me, he went and sold some. So I'm looking online, and in my animals, my red ones have a very distinct look. I'm scrolling on Instagram, and somebody I'm not even following posts a picture of an animal that I knew off the jump was my animal. I'm like, that's my fucking gecko, man. Like, that's my gecko. It's not even a question. That's my gecko. How did you get that animal? He goes, oh, I bought it from Ant Scale Bound something. I'm like, no shit, man. No shit. I'm like, yeah, all right, sounds good. That's my animal. I produced that animal, not Ant Scale Bound Exotics. I'm not mad at you because I understand you did not know, but I produced that animal. So I had to call my nephew up and read him the riot act and tell him, like, yo, Ant, check it. This is how you do this, right? Like, so it doesn't happen to you and anybody else. You give credit to the person who produced those animals. If you bought it from someone you don't know who, you still put down the animal originated from this person. You don't know who the breeder is, but if you did not produce that animal, you do not lay claim to that animal. I don't care how many times you show it off. I'm not saying you got to put it on every post when you post it, but you let it be known that you did not produce that animal, and you direct the people to the source, right? Like, should anyone love your animal and they want that animal, you point them to the source. So I had to tell them that, tell them the whole deal. And because of that post, he had corrected his post and was like, you know, the animal that I have, this gecko, came from Cold Blooded Gems. Boom. Open the floodgates up. Everyone and their fucking mother wanted one of these geckos. But that's how the whole thing got started, because someone failed to understand the ethics in that. You know, it's important. It's important. It's the noble thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's the respectable thing to do. It's the only way to do it. When you're working with an animal or showing an animal that you did not produce, give credit where credit is due. Give
Oh
the
yeah.
person that put in that hard work the animal. And should you want that recognition, do the fucking work yourself. Do the work yourself. Produce some animals, breed some animals, sell them to people, and then hopefully people will say this animal came from you. But you do not lay claim to animals that ain't yours.
Yep.
That's that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, anytime I get like say if I get a new gecko, comes from like Richie or whoever or Jake. No, first thing I do is say thank you to if it's the Gecko King or Just Geckos UK or Nelson at NCG. No, that's the first thing I'm doing, saying thank you and tagging them on there so everybody knows this is where that gecko came from. It's like I didn't produce it yet, or I didn't produce this. I will be producing them. So later on that year or whatever, boom, got these, produce, and then I'll say, all right, mom came from here, pops came from here, that's mine, right there. Oh, so what about
That leads to a
quarantine?
So
sneaky question.
I'm gonna wait.
I know where you're going with this, and that's
I'm gonna
exactly what I was
play
going to say.
devil's advocate on this one, right?
Oh,
Because
shit.
I feel strongly like you do, right? However, I also feel there's a sense of responsibility as a breeder to acknowledge those posts, because
Oh yeah.
not only am I spending my money, yeah, you produced an amazing animal, but I paid for it. Number one. Number two, the same way I'm acknowledging you for producing such an amazing animal, and I'm grateful for you giving me that opportunity to purchase it. At least say thank you for acknowledging me, you
Oh
For
know,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
For
or
sure.
or
No,
comment
I mean,
on
and
that, or
that's
say
that's on the
like
breeder to be like, oh
that's
man, I'm
that's like the
glad
customer
you're
service part,
happy. Yeah, exactly.
For
you know.
sure. So, what do you both think about wholesale animals? Now, what about the guys out there that are buying 50 animals from AC Geckos, right? From AC Geckos and selling them as if they're their own. Like, here, I got these hatchlings.
Yeah.
I'm offering these hatchlings, but the whole time they never came from you. You bought them as wholesale animals from so and so, and you're selling them as your own. What's
I
the proper
mean,
way to handle that?
that's to each their own on that one right there. Like if they want to go that route, eventually people are gonna find out. All right, you're really not producing. You're just buying a bunch of stuff and selling it off, just try to make a profit. No, eventually people gonna find that out. So now that's on the breeder to be like, okay, I need to figure out some other shit. Like I'm wholesaling these, but I'm keeping these ones back, and then those are gonna go into my program or something like that. But if you're just
But see,
wholesale,
it
you're just
happens more than I think anybody
yeah. Well, I mean, it didn't like that's how
acknowledges.
Tiki started off.
For
Bought a
sure.
wholesale. He kept what he
For sure.
liked and sold what he didn't like.
David's good
That's
at that though. David will say he
yeah,
produced it or he did not produce it, you know.
yeah, yeah.
But there's
You know,
people out there that'll have a whole Instagram page. You're selling 50 hatchlings, but yeah, you only got four breeders. How you got 50 hatchlings already this year and you only got four breeding animals, two males and two females?
yeah. I mean,
You produced them
that's on
all.
the public to recognize that kind of stuff.
For
They're not
sure. For
recognizing
sure.
that's on them.
For sure.
I think that's an advanced thing to recognize, though.
Not
As
everyone
a
will
be
catch it. You're right.
as a beginner, you may not realize that's what's going on. I personally think that should be something that's let known. It's the same as if you're getting a rarer species, you know, it's either captive born and bred or wild caught.
Oh yeah,
So it should be known as this is born and bred by myself, or it's a animal that's acquired from someplace else, you know, up front. Like I don't see why it can't be. When I sell animals, it's either I bred them or I got them from this person and I'm selling it and it's from this person, instead of it being something quiet behind the scene. Not everybody knows about that stuff. Like it takes time for you to acquire an eye to see. Let me see the parents from this. Like, I mean, going through the processes, you start to
Yeah,
narrow it down. Like, hey, Aunt, you have pictures of the parents from this, and I'll get them for you. Like,
because they gotta
you
go
can't
and
just
ask. They gotta go ask
yeah,
a
you,
wholesaler. Hold
you
on, let
can't
me get the
yeah
parents fixed.
yeah.
Some of the bullshit. Like, I'm not gonna say his name, right? And I have before, but the more I think about it, it's probably not right that he told me. But when I first came into the hobby, I was one of the first 2 years I was up at Flora Fauna, and I was with one of my buddies up there, and I'm looking at a table, right? And I never really paid much attention to buying crested geckos or selling crested geckos at the time. But I'm looking at tables, and it dawned on me like that animal's $500. They say it's 5 grams, and it clearly states that it's a male or a female, right? And it's 5 grams, so they'll say what male it is. And on that same table, there'll be 10 other animals the same size, 5 to 10 grams, for $100, $200. That'll say, no pores visible or unsexed, right? How you got an animal up here for $100 saying unsexed that's the same size as that animal over there that you want $500 for, that you know the sex of? You mean to tell me you know the sex of that one and that you want $500 for it, but all these other ones that are the same size you don't know the sex of? So I'm asking my boy, and he's like, "Yo, Ant, check it out. Trick of the trade, Ant." He said that's what a lot of people do when they want to dump one sex or the other. If they got a female heavy season or a male heavy season, they just list them as is
Sex.
unsexed. I'm like, that's fucking cool. Like, people just know that, and you sit back and think that shit's cool. Like, my dumb ass is walking in here, and I could tell right off the jump something's wrong. That animal's the same size, and you know the sex of it, but you don't know the sex of those. And arguably half of them are bigger than that one, but you don't know the sex of those. No, you just know that it's not a sex that you want. So you're going to put it down and let someone else gamble on it. To me, that shit is crooked. That shit is wrong. That shit is foul.
Well, that's it's to understand both sides. There's business minded people, and there's hobbyists. And a hobbyist has the mentality of, I want to be 100% accurate on everything. I want to be able to sex that and provide that information, the lineage. I want to show you pictures of the business is, I want to sell these animals and make profit off of them. So I understand both sides of it. I just can't understand how to mesh the two and be 100%
If
honest.
you genuinely don't know, or you didn't look, if you did not look, then you do not know, right? Like, that's fine. If you don't know, I don't care if you could
Yeah.
tell, you just haven't, and you're selling them as unsexed because you haven't looked, that's fine. But if you looked and you're like, hold up, that's a male, I don't want another male, so I'm going to put it down on the table as unsexed, but you know it's a male, to me, that shit is fucking wrong. Like, you know? You should. And then what happens when someone asks you to sex it? If it's unsexed, like a Flora Fauna, if you were to see an animal on the table, I'd say 90% of the breeders up there, that if you ask them to sex an unsexed animal, they loop it right there for you. But when I heard that that's a trick, people unload their animals, their unwanted animals, by listing them as unsexed, which gives the prospective buyer a 50-50 shot, because if it was a male, they're looking for a male or a female. They may not want one or the other. So you're in theory giving them a lottery ticket. Like, well, if that's a male, I'll be really lucky. If it's a female, well, I'll raise it and sell it or something, or vice versa. I'm all about the transparency, right? Like, I believe in being honest. If you know something, your customer should know as much about the object at hand as you do, right? Like, maybe I'm an extremist with that. You know what I'm saying? If an animal has a defect or an animal has something, I mean, if you know something about this animal, the person buying it should know what you know about that animal. They're investing in you. They're investing in you. They're
Yeah.
trusting you. You know,
I'm
you
that.
don't want to betray that trust or that honesty. But again, should you not know and you just don't look, and you're like, damn, it's an animal I don't want regardless, so I'm not going to look. I'm going to put him in a cup and I'm going to sell him as unsexed. God bless you. I got nothing against you. Nothing against you. That's not. It's not what I'm, riffing about. It's the people that would, in theory, label something other than what it is to offer.
Yeah. So, Mark, do you deal with any wild caught stuff?
I have.
Okay.
I don't get wild caught stuff and sell it. I get wild caught stuff to start my
Yeah.
breeding projects.
Okay.
What do you
So
have
what's
wild?
your yeah?
That's wild caught would be any stenodactylus that I have. I have pachydactylus that was wild caught.
I want
I
something wild, man. I want something
I
wild.
I have fimbriatus that were wild caught.
Were they
I
really?
Your
Oh
Platus?
shit!
Yeah,
Your damn, that's what's up.
yeah. The reason why I got into these Europlatus fimbriatus is because they were wild caught, and the person I got them from actually brought them to the vet, had them all taken care of, grew them up, and I was like, "That's excellent wild
You
caught
got to put me on a
purchase for
list
me."
for the first babies you have, Mark. I'm dead
It
serious,
was just
man. I'll send you a deposit. I want them so bad.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying, and but it's good. I think like you need the wild caught stuff to also bring in the different blood.
oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
I've had experiences though where I've purchased wild caught and it was just not a good animal. It passed
Too.
easily and fast, you know.
It's
But that's
okay.
the that I think it, and I've never been one to complain or talk bad about it. It's just something I put a H on my chest and handle, and it's like it's part of the breeding the breeding process and learning. It's so much more to me than just putting two animals together and having eggs. It's consistency of having those eggs. It's if they do get sick, it's getting a wild caught and being able to make it healthy. That's what makes me feel like I'm a breeder, not just, oh, I hatched eggs. Not that I have anything wrong with that. I'm just saying for me as a person, I like to feel like I did a whole bunch of different things in order for
It's a
this to
huge
happen.
accomplishment.
And
Acclimating a wild animal is huge.
yeah,
It's a
Yeah.
much bigger job than
So
people think it is, man. It's huge.
yeah, so pertaining to those questions that Gwendolyn asked, so what is like your quarantine process?
so my so that's another my quarantine process. I always keep the animals separate in a little housing before I put them into my room. 30 days the most I've ever done, to be honest with you. If I have a sick animal, I've I've been thankful enough to not have a sick animal that I've noticed, but with my research and my like I have a book on parasites and everything. I don't listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell the world that I quarantine like a hospital. You know, I see the quarantine station at FIU. They've explained that to me and stuff like that. I hear people say, "Oh, I quarantine for 90 days and this is that the other." But what do you do in those 90 days that you're quarantining? Like, what is quarantine? Just put an animal in a bin in a different room for 90 days and just make sure they're still alive, and now you're good to put it in there. Like, did you
Quarantine shit. I don't know.
did you test for parasites? Did you bring it to the vet to see what's going on at the vet? Like this woman I got the fimbriatus for, she told me so many different things that the animals were tested and passed, and it's like, oh wow, that's amazing. You know, she spent thousands of dollars on them before they were even given to me. So I was so for me, quarantine is they poop, they eat, they drink, and they're active. 30 days that they're going into the room. Like I know of a lot of places to get things tested and stuff like that. I don't see people passing these tests around. Like it's very interesting. So I'm not gonna sit here and say I do a military quarantine and padlock a room down and go in there with the suit and stuff. I just make sure that the animals are eating. Their poop looks solid. It's not runny. It's not watery. They're moving around. They're active. You know, no bones are protruding. No eyes are sunken in because that pretty much goes for all the geckos.
Yeah,
These key factors that you start to learn and see. And if anything like that happens, I go to my vet. I talk to her and see how to. But I've fortunate. I've never had no major issues. I don't keep snakes, so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. For the most part, all I have is geckos. And for the most part, everything's captive bred except for some of these wild caught things that I have introduced. But otherwise, and everything's been good. So
Okay. So even like so if you get some captive bred stuff in, do you kind of separate it from your collection and monitor like you said for 30 days, see make sure everything they're pooping right, they're active, they're normal, or do you
I
just like or is
I
it
be
like breeder by breeder
it
kind of thing?
depends on who I get. I'm gonna be honest with you. It depends on who I get the animal from.
Of course, yeah, yeah. I mean, because some like the people the people you're close with, what like their routines are, how they care for their
Simple ones I got
animals.
from Mark went right in my room. Went right in my
Yeah,
room, right in the
Yeah,
collection, right in my shit.
no.
Like I don't
But
even
that person you buy
Nelson.
from Joe Blow, you're
yeah.
like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put you away from my collection for a little bit until
Probably wouldn't have
I
bought
make
from
sure
him.
you're good.
Yeah,
You know?
that's key right there. Like I probably wouldn't even have bought from them, and if I probably wouldn't even have bought from them, or if I did buy from them, is because I saw something I really wanted and I
Yeah.
just wanted it. But like I said, if you're some like you two guys, like I'm buying something from you, it's going right in my because I know I see I talk to you like I see what you guys are doing. You know what I'm saying? And I know because I do what I do here. So if I see something funny that you're doing to begin with, like people don't pay attention to these pictures and you see, you can see the bin right there with Miss King parts in it. Like when I'm looking to buy an animal from Jason Morrow, Ghouls and Geckos, and I'm looking and I'm like, well, damn, every freaking picture I see, every tank is twisted and it's got shit all up the glass and there's no lighting or nothing. And he's showing a beautiful animal, but damn, bro, at least take a picture with a white wall behind you if you don't want to show. You, I pay attention, and I
Yeah.
usually, yeah. So if that's the case, then I would not put the animal in there, or if it's wild caught, like I said, I go through those steps of seeing what the animal is looking like, what it's doing, and then it's in there. Same thing with stuff that I catch from outside to decorate the tanks and stuff. Like there's two camps with that bioactive. Some of them want to sterilize it 500 degrees in the oven and burn everything to a crisp, and some people just take it from outside and put it in. If I'm going into the Everglades, walking into the jungle, and I find something, I don't do much to it before I put it in my
Yeah. I
tank.
mean, if I go to the national forest we have, I don't have to do much to it. No, but
Yeah,
if I go to the reptile store, I might have to because
yeah,
there's a whole bunch of shit there. You never know what they
yeah,
got.
exactly.
Geckos get mites. Have you guys ever heard of geckos getting
Yeah.
mites? Oh
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
I,
mean,
I
geckos in the wild, I know can get mites. Like I've seen plenty of videos from Australia. Like I think it was like Beachy Scaly Beast did like they were going herping right, and they were looking for leaf tail geckos, and those things had so many fucking mites on them, like and they're red. Yeah, you
yeah,
see them
I was
all over
just
their
about to.
face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
there's different mites. There's good mites and there's bad mites. So you like,
Well, it's snake
but
mites. Right? Like if somebody
but
had, my point is, if you bought geckos from someone that kept snakes, and say that snake had mites, could the geckos get mites that are from the snakes or no?
I would say so. I would say so.
no, I wouldn't doubt it. But I
Like in
mean,
a pet
I've never
shop,
heard of
perfect
anybody.
scenario, perfect storm, a pet shop. Say a pet shop
Yeah,
had
yeah,
mites.
yeah. All right. So last looks like it's the last question. From Shane Bowman. So how do you go about labeling and keeping up with eggs and hatchlings?
So labeling and keeping up with eggs and hatchlings.
One of these fine tip sharpies right here.
I I use black Sharpie and I use white masking tape.
I use this one
Each bin, each gecko pairing, I have a plastic bin for that gecko pairing
right
specific.
there.
No shit, really.
Yeah.
You got
So
big incubators though, right? You got big
I
fucking
I
things.
had
That's a
that's
good
my
idea. I never thought about that.
that's my
Damn.
incubator. And each bin, I will show you one because I have
That's a
one
good
right here.
idea. So I just use
I don't
erasable markers on the box and write.
I don't so I get these systemas and I have a little hole on each side. I write the name, and then I have the dates, and that wipes off with alcohol. But each pairing specifically goes in its own bin. It goes in the fridge.
That's a good idea.
And then on the gecko bins itself, whatever is a male or female that is not paired has a card with the name that I've given it, where it's from, hatch date, whatever information that is. And if it's a breeding pair or a breeder, they have a card with the purpose of the breeding, why I put them together, the date that I paired them together, the date that each egg was hatched, if they're good, if they're bad, and then, so, excuse me, that's a separate card. So the card that I have is a white card. It has the names of the geckos that are there, the morphs, and the purpose of the pairing. Then I have a pink card that I slide in and out. And on that card, I will have the date that they were paired together. With each date, each egg was hatched. And if the eggs were good, if it was two, if it was one, or if it was bad, infertile, all of that information is on there. And then I have all of that information in an Excel spreadsheet as well. The babies that come from hatching, once they hatch out of that, once the baby hatches out of here, it goes into a 6 quart where I put the parents. So Krillin times Chi Chi. I put the hatch date top left, the lay date top right, and then if whatever notes, which is normally like, oh, full pinstripe or dark base, a star because it came out looking crazy, I want to keep it. I will put 0.2 if I put 2 hatchlings in one bin, or 0.1 if it was just one, so that I know. And with that information, like, I'm able to see the variation in hatch dates. Like, this one was laid 6/7 and it hatched 8/10 right there. I could just calculate, okay, that took 68 days. This took 72 days. And as they go through age, once I verify 100% the sex, I will mark it blue for male or pink for female. If it doesn't have that marking, then it's unsexed. But masking tape and Sharpie black marker is my best friend, and I do that for the day geckos. I do that for every single species.
That's just wrong.
I find with the masking tape also, if I need to move it, the masking tape rips off easily and I could put it someplace else, and it's just constant waterproof. The Sharpie never rinses off. I could scrub that thing with soap, water, everything, and it's always there. So
nice. What about you, Rant?
Same thing. I mean, I don't use this. I don't have an Excel spreadsheet, but I do the same thing with all my breeder enclosures have a note card with what the objective is. You know, the two animals' names, the genes, what the objective of the pairing is, and then I'll list every time they laid a clutch. And then when that clutch hatches, I'll put the hatch date of the clutch from that pair on the breeder bin. Then the hatchlings, I'll write on a little piece of tape the lay date, the hatch date, and then like I'll sometimes write on the egg. You know what I'm saying, with that little marker. When the egg comes out, I'll put a little mark, you know, where the embryo is on the egg, and I'll put them in the box, and then with an erasable whiteboard marker, I'll just write on the little square of the box, the egg box, what egg is in there, what, you know, my abbreviation for what pair it's from, and the date it was laid. So pretty much the same thing as Mark does, a little more simplified. And then that piece of tape will follow the gecko as it grows. I pull the tape off. So I start them out in smaller bins. You know, they're like little 3 quarts, three quart. Those little. Well, I have 2 sizes of these. I got a small one of these and a big one of these. When they first hatch, I leave them here with a paper towel and a little cap of water and a little like piece of cardboard, like a packing piece of cardboard, so I can confirm that they pooped and everything's good. They get the first shed off. Then they go into a bigger one of these, which is like a little bit bigger. And then I keep them in there until they're about like 4 or 5 grams, and then I put them in a bigger box. So as I'm doing that, I just move the tape. Tape goes with the animal. What do you do?
I mean, shit, I do the same thing. Like I said, I mean, all these got, like I said, label, tape, and everything like that. Like I said, and then so say I move a gecko, or someone buys a gecko for me, I have all this information down already. I can write it down. I can even take that tape, put it on there. Boom, this is when this gecko hatched out. Now I use more tape than I probably should. Like I'll get this tape, like all right, cool, write it on a new one. Boom, that goes on their enclosure. Make sure, and then I still have that one. Like I got like a little like a notebook of all the tapes. So I have like reminders of all right, this is that. And then I use this thing called Reptile Buddy. It's an app. So I don't know if you can see it on there, but essentially like all I take pictures of all my animals, registers on there, so I can mark down, all right, gecko shed this day, gecko took a shit this day, it ate 3 crickets this day, it refused food this day, or when it laid its clutch, or when it laid its first set of duds, or anything like that. Just any kind of stuff to help me categorize it, and then I can actually export it to like a Excel file if I wanted to go ahead and do all that. But generally, that's what I do, and I also use my calendar as well. So I use my Google Calendar, like so it's gonna it laid on whatever, like say it laid today, right? So now I count. I'm doing 2 dates. One date is for so say it's for like my ciliaris. All right, so it laid today. So now I'm gonna count 21 days from now on my calendar. Put that on there. So check lab in for another clutch, and then I have another one for like 65 days to check the incubator. So that's how I do. So I don't like I'm not constantly looking in the incubator, lifting it up, letting the hot air out, letting the humidity out. So it keeps me from stressing. That's generally what I do with my shit. Let me say. So I mean, we're getting kind of close to this end stuff. Let me ask Mark, what's what's your future plans or what's your future goals for this stuff for your collection? Are you think you're going to add more? You're going to start kind of reducing and concentrating? What's your goals for the next few seasons?
My goals are to continue growing. Like my I'm narrowing down on crested geckos, and at this point, like I really want to just be known for certain things when it comes to the crested geckos instead of for everything. So I think that I just want to wear the hat of, okay, Mark has some outstanding Dalmatians. Go to Mark for Dalmatians, and maybe one or two other things that are just passionate. I'm passionate about, but it's just refining all the different projects I have, and then seeing what else I want to add. Because I am called the Gecko Room for a reason. My ultimate goal is to eventually have a reptile zoo pet shop atmosphere where I can show off things and people come in, and if they want to purchase things, like that's my ultimate goal. So I think I will always have a lot of different species. I think I just got the crested gecko bug just like a lot of us do and went very heavy in them. So I'm refining things down now, and just constant evolution goals of creating a better space, better rooms. It's just always elevating everything. Like even if I could get into out of plastic bins and glass and PVC for everything eventually, I'm just trying to constantly evolve and do those type of things.
Just
So
like that answer.
if I could win the lotto,
Man, telling
hey,
you. Oh
and
man, what
and
about
and
you, man?
and I'm sorry, my
Go
one
ahead, go
last
ahead.
most important thing is and building a community of people that loves this stuff, that talks this stuff, and we can just continue to grow, 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 grow for the years to come and make it better and bring new people and inspire new people to enjoy this and love this and continue.
Nice.
What was the question?
So what's kind of like your future goals, plans for the collection? Are you gonna start kind of narrowing your path, like on specific like projects, or are you gonna kind of just keep on going? Like, what's your goals?
Better living conditions for all my animals. I'm in the process right now of upgrading all of the enclosures, and I mean we haven't told anybody, but the thing we're working on with our product line, is something I really see being super successful. So I it's not gecko related, but yet it is.
No,
Jason
it's
and I are working
reptile
with a
related.
manufacturer, and I've always said it. I've said it to everybody I talk to. Selling animals is you're not going to get rich, right? People buy animals and they may have that animal for 20, 30 years. Not everybody keeps hundreds of geckos. Some people just have one or two, and that's it. But they will always need products. They will always need products. They will always need supplies. If you want to make a living in the reptile world, you will find a way to sell products and supplies or new customers, right? Like if you're going to sell animals, it's going to be trickier, but it can be done. I'm not saying that it can't be done. But with that being said, I've always, thought and thought and thought, and this opportunity came our way to work with a manufacturer to design a product line for reptile keepers by reptile keepers. I think that I can make a much bigger impact on the community designing a functional, affordable means for people to keep their animals in a more naturalistic way than I can be selling animals. I mean, I love breeding my animals. I love my animals. Not really a plan to get rich or anything. It's more of a keep my sanity type thing. And I love the species I love. I'm always exploring new stuff, but I think my time will be consumed with this new endeavor that we have. With evolving that and getting this whole thing off the ground and really trying to cut costs for the keeper. I don't want people. Granted, I use a lot of bins. A lot of people use a lot of bins. There's absolutely a necessity for them. There is a time and a place for everything. But I don't want people to have to keep their animals in bins because they cannot afford an enclosure, right? Like, I think that that's wrong. I think that that's a huge flaw in the reptile community. If you want people to keep more animals, give them the means to keep more animals cheaper and better, right? Like, we probably spend, the gecko community as a whole probably gives the storage business, the Sterilite company, more money than we do reptile companies, right? Like it's I don't know exactly how to articulate what I'm getting at, but I want to be able to make keeping reptiles at a top tier level cost effective for everybody. So with what we got going on and designing these products and bringing them to America and keeping the price low and the quality high doesn't sound like much. It doesn't, I guess, but it's something that has kept me up for nights on end for the last 2-3 weeks. I don't sleep at night trying to figure out better ways, how to improve, how to better, how to make it easier, how to get the word out, how to, improve on enclosures that haven't even really been built yet, how, what I would do to improve what is already out there. My foreseeable future is definitely going to be consumed with this
With
product launch.
husbandry. Yeah. Yeah. Involving that husbandry to make it, like you said, make it affordable for the people, right? And so you
Sure,
don't have to spend,
that's
no,
the ultimate goal.
like, yeah, not everybody could drop $500-$600 on
Or even
PVC, right?
$200. $200 is a lot of money. Let's be real. I work all week for $1,200. I bust my ass to come home with $1,200 every fucking week. Is all I come home with. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And then by the time the week's over, that $1,200 is dwindled down to $500. It's and now I got to live all week off of $500, and it costs me damn near $200 to get back and forth and around to work all fucking week. So that what my point is regular living is already expensive. Our pleasures shouldn't be a burden. And I feel, I don't want to say that it's criminal, but I feel like a lot of reptile companies and businesses out there have upmarked everything so much that they make being a reptile keeper like an elite thing. Like you can't keep a reptile, you can't keep a decent size collection of reptiles in a really nice way unless you have a second job. You know what I'm saying? Or you shop
I
around.
got
Like
3 of
Mark
them.
was telling me how he buys them, he'll buy, off marketplace and use cages. I mean, which is brilliant. I do myself. When I got started buying them, that's what I do. I look at a marketplace where I go spend $100 and I could buy one that someone had a crested gecko, when they lived 6 months, died, and they had that thing in their garage. They paid $140 for it. I can go pay them $50 for it. I mean, all day. But you got to be on it with that. We should be able to walk into a pet shop or go online and say, wow, that's a, 18 by 18 by 25 enclosure. That would be awesome for my chihuahuas. But I only got $100. You should be able to buy an enclosure to house your animal properly for $100. Oh, that's all I'm saying. When I know what it costs to buy a sheet of PVC, I know that it would, what a 4x8 foot sheet of this stuff costs, half-inch PVC. I know what plexiglass costs and screen costs. I know how easily and how cheap and how expensive an enclosure can be. If it costs a manufacturer $25 to say $30 to produce an enclosure, you shouldn't be selling it for $250. You should not be selling that shit for $250 when it costs you $30 to make. That's wrong. That's wrong. But if you should be able to produce one for say $23 to $27 and sell it for $100, hey.
Yeah. So hopefully we get that out to y'all soon. But like I said, like Ann said, yeah, it's coming. It's just a matter of when and getting everything correct the way that we want it before we say, yeah, release it to the public. So, there's gonna be some
guys what we wouldn't
experimenting.
use. If we're not going to use them, I will not sell them to you guys. But when we do design, and we are close, we are fucking close. When we have the perfect enclosure for keeping these animals, they'll be available and they'll be affordable. They'll be affordable. And that's again, these are reptile enclosures for reptile people by reptile people. And there is some assembly required, so you're not going to get a full-blown enclosure, in the mail. We have to
I mean, and that cuts
flat
costs right
ship
there.
them,
Even
flat
better.
pack them to ship them to make them more affordable. But would not sell anybody anything that we wouldn't use ourselves. So we have some prototypes.
so-
Some of you guys have seen
yeah.
them, some haven't. We're working with the manufacturer. Our things we're being designed, redesigned, readjusted, and we're gonna hit you guys with some options, man. Some affordable, quality options.
Right.
And I won't sleep until you do. Until I do. Until we get them to you, I will not sleep. I give you my word.
All right. So before we head out, a couple quick tips on help making keeping a large collection a little bit easier. What do you guys got?
Be organized. That helps. Be very organized. Come up with a schedule. Think in advance with what you're going to do in the future and start planning that out. You already got to where you are today and you have what you have, but moving forward, sit back and think about what you plan on doing and speak to other people and hear ideas and utilize those ideas. Learn from other people, utilize it, ask questions, yeah, and share your experiences, good or bad. It helps others, whether it's a bad experience or a good one, it helps others, learn from those mistakes.
Let's say the same thing as Mark, man. But I got to throw one more monkey wrench in the gearbox real quick, man. And I'd just like to hear both of your opinions on this because it's something that we should have talked about when it comes to keeping larger than normal collections, which we all can agree that we have, and most of our viewers probably have. What do you do and how do you handle burnout? Is burnout a real thing? Is it something you've experienced? Is it something, or what are two ways that both of you would conquer or talk yourselves off the ledge, if you will, if it comes to burnout and the monotony of keeping a large collection of reptiles?
Go ahead, Mark.
I would say burnout is a real thing. So I think to conquer that burnout, you need to be true to yourself and realize what you can handle and what you can't handle. And not so much what you can handle, what you can't handle, but what you can handle to the point that your animals are not suffering. Once your animals start to suffer, I don't care what you're getting done, you're not getting it done correctly because your animals are suffering. So you need to scale back. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know the excitement and the adrenaline may push you to higher limits that you think you can handle. But if you can't handle that, scale back. Like I've scaled back on certain things. I've upscaled on certain things. But as long as I can continue to do what's right for the animal, I continue to do what's right for the animal. And You need to always in your schedule set time for yourself away from the animal. If you don't have a time away from the animal, you will never appreciate the animals 110%. You will it would become a it will become a job instead of a passion. Like when I go away from my animals, I'm excited when I come back to them. You know, I'm like, oh, let me see this, let me see that. But when I'm just there all the time without even a day or an hour away from them, now it's like, oh man, I gotta clean another one. I gotta clean it. When it gets like that, it's no more fun. So I think you have to be aware yourself of those situations and pay attention to that and know where to scale back and where you can upscale. But don't lie about it to show off like, oh, I got 1,000 animals. It's not for everybody. I don't think it's for everybody. I think, certain people can handle it and certain people can't, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know?
Nice. I mean, shit, dude. I work 7 days a week, so coming in to see my geckos just gives me all the excitement in the world. Like I said, between working my regular job, working Amazon, doing Uber Eats, doing all these other delivery app or whatever, coming home is that's my peace. That's my solace. So, coming here, like, and then even if you think like, for me, if I feel like I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do this, you know what I get excited about? Let me redecorate an enclosure. Let me let me clean out this, let me gut out this enclosure, redo it all, and then boom, put that gecko back in there and see how they react. How do they react to you changing certain things? And you're observing them, seeing what they're doing, and that gets me going again. Like, oh, look, he's doing something different this time. He's not just chilling on his usual side. He's chilling over here now. So, playing with things in the enclosure, help it always helps me so I don't hit that burnout area. I mean, and also, like I said, I don't have a no. I know what my limit is, and so I'm not gonna go over that regardless. Like, if I once I hit my limit, if I want a gecko got to go. So that's just how that's gonna have to go. Like, instead of just keep on piling and piling and piling all these geckos, like, no, this project's about to go because I want a new project. Like, I just posted a pair of Pictus geckos on Morph Market because I was like, you know what, I don't want to work this project because I want a different project now. So instead of those not getting all the attention and all the correct maintenance, let's go ahead, post it. See, somebody else will have that joy in working with those Pictus geckos, and then I can find joy in working with a different set of geckos coming in, or putting more focus on my Stropherus or my Phylloris or whatever else I got going on. Generally that's what I do. Like I said, I don't keep a big collection like you guys. Like, my collection is very small. I mean, because like I said, most of my shit's just oddball shit. So, and trying to, a lot of those things don't reproduce heavily like our industry pets that we do have. It's a lot more of me learning more knowledge, and because I do, whenever I have time, I'm on YouTube. I'm looking at different shit, looking at different ways, or like doing a lot of research. That's another joy of mine right there. It's just researching, reading books, trying to figure things out, what's clicking, what's not clicking. And also, feeling that burnout is something I have not experienced since being in the hobby. I've been, well, breeding probably for a few, like 3 4 years, 5 years, I don't even know anymore. But a keeper for my entire life. I mean, there were some on and off periods. I was in the military. Can't have reptiles in the military. Just doesn't work. I'm in a boat. I was like, where the hell am I gonna keep that thing? But after I got out the military, guess what? I hopped right back into getting geckos again. Or when I went to go be a DoD contractor in Afghanistan and Nigeria, I went semi herping, because there was animals everywhere. So that still lit a fire in me. And then I'm still talking to other folks in the US about their animals, that keeps that fire in me going. So, and like you said, that community aspect. if you have that community aspect, you're always gonna have that fire for these animals. So those are some of the things I just do. What about you, Ant?
Same way as you, man. It's my happy place, man. I deal with too much shit at work for this to bring me any misery. My work brings me all the misery in the world, man. You know, with a bunch of idiots all day.
Yeah,
There's no way if I came into here and had burnout, if I came home and had burnout in my gecko room, it'd be a big problem, man, and I'd be the first one to send all this shit out.
yeah.
I've never had burnout in my gecko room. Where I've had burnout is trying to keep up with Instagram and
Trying to keep up
posting
with the
and stuff, like
Joneses.
trying to keep. But once I canceled that out, and I'm like, all right, well, whatever. I'm gonna post when I post, and that's it.
Yeah,
But my
There's
focus is
days,
my animals. I found my peace again.
there's days, don't get me wrong, where I'll come home and be like, I'm not I don't feel like going in there right now, or something will come up and I got to do something. So everything gets, that's why I always keep that one day open in between all my rotation. Cause if God forbid I have to bump something up, I always have a day to fill it in between. But I mean, I ain't going to lie and say I haven't had days where I came home and didn't feel 100 and was like, man, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there to go through the routine. I'll always check my animals. I'll always, if I see a dirty water dish, I'm always going to change that. I mean, if I see a dirty water dish at 2 o'clock in the morning, my right hand of God, man, I'll be in here at 2 o'clock in the morning, my little flashlight. I see shit in a water bowl, changing it right there on the spot. Not waiting till the morning, not waiting till the next day. I'm changing it now. If I come, if anything like that. But there's been days where I'm like, I don't want to feed today, or I got something to do. I'm not going to be able to feed this section. I've had days absolutely where I bump it off to the next day, and but burnout, no. But I've always wondered. It's always been something I've always thought about, because you hear a lot of people talk about it, right? Like, oh,
yeah.
how do you handle burnout, or how
You
do
see people
you,
giving up
people
collections
sell
because
their
of burnout.
collections, and I'm like, damn, burnout. I mean, that's like, I mean, the way I view it, like, would you ever have the audacity to say you're burnt out from taking care of your kids? You need a day. I mean, I guess
That's,
people do, but would you not take care of
they
your
think I know.
children? I mean, it's like
But
Hey
anyways,
man,
doesn't seem like
I
something.
it that comes, I think, a lot from the individuals that jump into this and start because of the money aspect.
Yes,
yeah, I
that's
think
exactly
most
what
of
it
it's
was.
that.
It's
Yeah,
Ninety
not.
you
It's
know,
percent
not
of
when
really
it
a
is
when
probably
passion.
that.
It's
when you're
not really a
passionate
passion.
about, like, I have animals that I don't think anybody cares to even buy. And like, I got
Same
two
here.
sets of micro geckos from Puerto Rico, and I'm like the happiest freaking dude. I don't care if they're male, female. I just want to have them and care for them and say that I own geckos from my freaking island.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I think people grab these animals and they want to sell them, and they don't realize, like, shoot, I got to do all of this work, and oh, I got to buy all of these extra bins, and now they're going to become juveniles and they're going to become adults. Now what the hell do I do? Oh shoot, my electric bill, my water bill. Wait, I got 10,000 crickets coming every 2 weeks now. That's 500. Like, and I'm done. I'm overwhelmed. I can't handle it. I can't go on vacation. I can't go out to eat. I can't stay away from the house for more than 2 days. Like, and you get overwhelmed with it and you're out of here. But when you're passionate and you're here because of the animals,
I think
hey,
that's the deciding factor. You can't really truly be burnt out on something that is your real passion, right? Just does they don't coincide with each other. Something that truly brings you all the joy in the world, truly, if it really brings you joy, you can't be burnt out from that. So the people, like you said, if you come in with other intentions other than joy, like, wow, those things amaze me so much. I mean, I am excited every time I see one, whether it's mine, yours, the pet shops. Every time I see a reptile, I am boom. Then you could explore again a bunch. But if you're like, man, I'm gonna get rich, I'm gonna buy a Corvette selling geckos. Let me just get as many. Yeah, you might get.
all right, fellas. I think that's a wrap for this one. Like I said, we're about 2.5 hours deep on this one. Didn't think that was gonna happen, but it did. Happy it happened. But Mark, dude, appreciate you coming on, man. Love to have you back
likewise,
whenever you.
appreciate it.
All right. I said, and if you guys are not, make sure y'all checking out Mark's Palm Street, dude. Like he always has great palm streets. It's a live event. It's a party. Last time they were
Always a
doing it,
party,
like
always
dude had,
exciting. Mark's on.
yeah, for real. It's like you stepping into a club when you go on Mark's Palm Street for real. He's like, you might buy a gecko, but you gonna be dancing too.
Thank you, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So go ahead and plug all your socials. If you got a website and Palm Street, all that good shit.
I'm the Gecko Room everywhere. The Gecko Room. My Instagram is where I'm most active. I have a website that you can visit. It's not 100%. It's not 100% done, but it's in the works. You can email me through there and everything. I'm still gonna respond, but I'm working on it. Hopefully this year we'll start to be more active on that. And then Palm Street. We're gonna be doing a Palm Street August 31st, I believe it. I scheduled it for. Yeah, Anthony, hopefully you jump on. Jason, if you want to jump on, show some animals. We can
What day is
get
that?
some
Sunday?
stuff. Sunday, yeah. I'm off
Ooh, what
Monday
time?
for I think I did it like 12 in the afternoon.
Okay, cool. All right.
Like
I said we got
12
something
in
at
the
4.
afternoon. Yeah. So come through, hang out. I like to do a lot of palm streets where we talk a lot and also sell animals. So it's never just selling animals.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. Yeah.
There you go.
Basically.
All right. Well, everybody, have a great morning, afternoon, night, whenever you're listening to this, and we'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
Like, subscribe, share. Catch you in the next one. Peace.